Snowball Derby winner.
Better run, better get up out our way when we come. Better run, better. You know we just begun. I ain't saying this for fun. All the damage that we've done. Better run.
After several days of pre-race festivities, traditions, and pageantry, it is time for cars to hit the track for the 57th annual Snowball Derby at the Five Flags Speedway. And for the first time, live on FloRacing. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Pensacola, Florida. I'm Eric Brennan alongside of Adam Mackey, one of the longest tenured voices in terms of broadcast experience of this race. And Adam, it's my first chance to be here at this racetrack and take this all in. And the amount of energy, it's not just encapsulated here at this speedway. It branches out all across this town. And now we're starting to see where it matters most on that racetrack.
Welcome to the Snowball Derby, Eric. First of all, you're going to have a great week. Have you ever been excited for 6 hours of practice broadcasting? Have you? Because we're getting ready to do that. And it's going to be exciting because these drivers' anticipation has built for probably about a year to get back to the Snowball Derby. That's where we are right now. Getting into the fields, top 30 lock-in and qualifying on Friday night for the Snowball, Saturday afternoon for the Snowflake. And practice is getting their cars ready to go. They're going to make some race runs to make sure that they're ready if they make the race, but qualifying so important here. That's going to be the focus today.
First chance for us to get a glimpse at what many of these race cars look like. A lot of the teams have gone all in with the Snowball theme as they do each and every year here. There's a lot of really good-looking race cars, and the hope is we're going to be able to see them all stay in one piece on what is a very tricky racetrack with a lot of time to try to work their way through it. And, Adam, we did have a little bit of inclement weather roll in through the morning. Track crew's been working diligently to get us ready for a potential 10 a.m. local start time, but it's another variable for the teams to have to look into.
It is. You know, actually, when we looked at the forecast yesterday, I didn't think we'd get on track until about 3 o'clock this afternoon. That's not the case. We were very fortunate. It just rained a little bit overnight, and there's a look at what we have scheduled for today. Plenty of practice, 6 hours of it for the Snowball and the Snowflake, rotating 1 hour sessions taking us up until 4 o'clock here this afternoon.
A lot to look forward to here, and this race and this schedule kind of reminds me of, if you will, of an Indianapolis 500 or Daytona 500, where every moment of on-track time is going to be pivotal to who runs well in this race. And it's also a chance for a lot of teams to maybe overthink some of the adjustments they want to make in the pivotal qualifying session on Friday, and then, of course, race day. Well, Adam and I are joined by two other longtime tenured veterans of this race and this style of racing. We're going to extend a warm welcome to a few more members of our broadcast team in Bob Dillner and Jim Trado.
Right now, guys, we're getting blown by the dryer trying to get the surface ready for practice today. But this is the most exhilarating day, I believe, leading up to Sunday, the 57th running of the Snowball Derby. Practice, practice, practice. Yes, like Allen Iverson said, the NBA star, we're talking about practice today because this is so important, Jim, to dialing in these race cars for what's to come, especially with qualifying tomorrow.
And a lot of these teams have had a chance to come here and practice, whether they elected to rent track time or came last weekend on Sunday and Monday and got some track time as well to get prepared. So they've got a lot of notes already. The biggest issue is how is this tire going to react? It's the first time we're on the ST1s on the left and Hoosier ST3s on the right. They only raced this year once, I believe, this year in the final Blizzard race. So that's a lot of different things these teams are working through. That's the topic of conversation I've had already on pit road. But I'm telling you, man, the excitement's here. You're not wearing a jacket right now. I am. We're kind of in between that right now. When the sun comes out, it's warm. It's going to get chilly here. So these teams are also factoring in what's the weather going to be like, especially Friday night for that qualifying when it's going to be down below maybe 40 degrees.
And here's what's interesting. We've talked about with FloRacing. It's been nice. It's like friends coming together the last couple of days here in the Panhandle of Florida. But today is the day that things change. The stress amps up a little bit. Are you going to be fast right off the bat? Eric talked about possibly dialing your car out at one point. That happens. You never know what's going to happen on practice day Thursday for the Snowball Derby.
Hey, and the drivers that have been here year upon year are questioning themselves, like, do I have the speed? They looked at the charts. There was timing and scoring for them available on Sunday and Monday. Some of these drivers that you expect to run well here, that have run all the Blizzard races the last couple of years, they're like, man, I got to pick up the speed. I got to find more speed. Ty Majeski, the defending winner, is here. They spent a lot of time on Monday. He's not really a big practice guy. He spent a lot of time here Monday getting that car dialed in. And keep in mind, Stephen Assey and Bubba Powell have yet to win this. they've elected to bring their Pro Late models here to get more time back here at the Derby for the first time in several years.
And we even have one driver doing quadruple duty. Caden Honeycutt, we'll be talking about that. We'll have interviews down here. Actually, I wanted to show you what's going on here. Daryl, if you want to walk with me here, you can see the track surface is being dried right out here. And it was really great. The folks from Owasso Speedway bought 3 different track dryers down here. We have the Titan here that's down in turns 1 and 2. And you can see the surface right now. It's still a little damp out here, so I think maybe about 10, 15 minutes until they get this track surface. They won't be down here, they'll be up there, and that's where those track dryers are working right now. But this track surface, still a little damp here at Five Flags Speedway, guys.
Thanks, gentlemen. And I'll tell you, Adam, a lot of people stereotype the term Florida weather. Snowball Derby weather is a completely different ball game, and we're going to see that over the course of the next 4 days.
It is, and actually this weather this week is a little cooler than we've been fortunate to have over the last several seasons for the Snowball Derby, but it's going to be dry the rest of the week. We've been very fortunate. We were supposed to have rain until the early afternoon hours today. Doesn't look like that's going to be the case, so we're going to have plenty of practice. Track is drying nicely, thanks in part to the Owasso Speedway folks. The Air Titan that's here as well. Chris Wright on hand with that, and Talladega Jet Dryer also here. So plenty of vehicles to dry the track surface here this morning.
A lot of people, a lot of power trying to get us up to our 10 a.m. local start time for practice for the 57th Annual Snowball Derby presented by Flow Sports. We'll be right back right after this. See many familiar faces up on the spotter stand here for the 57th Annual Snowball Derby at the Five Flags Speedway as we're getting set to kick off the first bit of on-track activity from an official capacity here. for the 57th annual Snowball Derby, with the cars and drivers and teams getting set to go, and many of the spotters waving along to those of you who have joined us here on this Thursday morning, depending on where you're located throughout the country and the world here on FloRacing. Adam, we've been talking about the weather all morning. This is not what the forecast called for all the way up to the mid-afternoon. We got quite a break here, but it's still challenging conditions for these teams.
Yeah, the rain drops south over the water here on the Panhandle, and cool conditions today, but we're expecting cool conditions. I think warmest day in the forecast into the 70s on Sunday, but all the preparation will take place in cool conditions today, which is perfect for the teams.
We see track drying efforts beginning to wrap up. Let's go down trackside to Bob Dillner, who's standing by with one of our competitors getting set to hit the speedway.
Actually down here with Tim Bryant, top brass here at Five Flag Speedway for so many years with the Snowball Derby. Tim, I don't think anybody thought we were going to see cars on track early this morning. Did you talk to Mother Nature and negotiate with her in terms of getting the rain out of here?
We actually talked to Mother Nature a lot, especially this weekend, and she's been fairly cooperative. She stopped the rain this morning, but man, got to make a shout out to Rex Wheeler and his crew from Owasso Speedway all the way from Michigan down here with extra drying equipment. The Talladega jet dryer is on its way in case we have any other problems going through the day. So man, it's the epitome of tracks helping tracks that are allowing us to make this happen.
When you said we were going to be on track at 10 o'clock or shortly thereafter during the driver's meeting, I was like, man, it still looks pretty wet. They've done a great job. What do you see from this track right now, and when do you think we'll have be cars on the track?
Yeah, it's not going to be long. If we don't make 10 o'clock, it's going to be shortly after. Tracetrack's almost ready. Just got a couple of damp spots, and certainly we don't want any issues in practice. So we want to make sure it's good and safe, but we're really almost ready to go.
You and your staff worked so hard here for so many years with this race, and I know a lot of people worked hard prior to your regime here, but I want to know, do you still get that feeling, those goosebumps right before cars go on the racetrack?
Oh, every year. It'll never change. This is a magical moment. Of course, we're already looking forward to 6 o'clock tomorrow night for pole position qualifying. That's really special. Temperature's going to be a little cool tomorrow night. Speeds will be fast. But yeah, we're excited, and I think all the teams are ready to go.
Tim Bryant, he's looking at this racetrack. I think we're just inching closer to getting cars on racetrack. Jim?
Ty Majeski is the defending Snowball Derby champion. He is the third car in line, already strapped in, buckled in the car that he won with here 1 year ago. He's only raced it twice since. This car sits in the corner of the shop. Brad Manstead owns this car. Toby Noodleman oversees every car that Ty drives at this level. But this race car is special. They raced it last year. They did a lot of development on the car. It's only raced twice since. At Oktoberfest, where he won, and at Milwaukee, where he finished second in the ASA Midwest Tour race, ASA Stars race, excuse me. A driver he had to race against a lot this year has also been seen a lot here on FloRacing. One of the cars per late model stock tour, Caden Quapple. Caden's getting a chance to race in his second straight Snowball Derby, and this race car you got in the show last year. What are your thought processes today, Caden, about going through practice?
Yeah, I'm feeling good about it. Like you said, the same car we were in last year, the Toby car, like Ty's running. So we were able to get in the show last year, my first time, third ever super race. So it was a little nerve-wracking going into it, but with that race under my belt, I'm feeling really good. We practiced here Monday, and I felt like the car handled really good. And I'm really looking forward to get back on track. It's been a couple days, but I'm excited to see how we shake up today with everyone else here and how our speed-wise goes.
With your brother's plans next year set to race in the NASCAR Xfinity Series, you're getting a chance to race against him for what may be one of the last times in a while. What's that going to be like? You guys are pitted next to each other as well.
Yeah, it's going to be weird for sure. Last year was the first time I think we ever raced late models against each other, and fortunately he was able to race me fully, but hopefully this year we're both in the show. We can duel it out on track. Hopefully we don't get into each other too much, or if we're near each other too much, but we'll see how it goes. We used to race each other a lot in outlaw cart and stuff at Millbridge and micros a little bit, so we've done it before. It's nothing really abnormal, but just not on this big of a scale.
Hayden, one thing that's different for you is you qualified in the show, finished 13th with your brother as your crew chief here 1 year ago. You can compare notes to a point, but when it comes to this race, how important is it for you and this Keen Parts team to get this car in and run well like you've done this year several times in the ASA Stars?
Yeah, definitely for sure. I feel like just qualifying in is the big thing here. Last year we kind of struggled with the race speed, but this year our race pace I feel like is really good. The handling yesterday or Monday was really good, so getting in the show, and I think from there it'll be a lot better. I feel like if we get in the show and we can drive through the field, it'll be really good.
As we talked about, guys, the thoughts are already about tomorrow night's important qualifying to qualify top 30. Caden Quapple again, going after his second straight Snowball Derby start. Bob Dillner?
Well, Jim, today is not just about super late model practice, it's about pro late model practice as well. Casey Roderick has done both for years, just concentrating on the pro late model side this time around with a good-looking race car. But what do you think about this weather today and what we're going to see and what you're going to learn for practice when the pro late models get on the racetrack around 11 o'clock?
I think you're going to see some pretty fast times this morning. Got a fresh rain during the night and fresh green track right now, so see some fast cars, but as the day goes on, things are going to slow down a little bit. Track's going to rubber up a little bit, and handling's going to change, and you just got to keep up with the track right now.
I know you're the ASA champion from this past year. Super late models is the big dog, right? Sunday with the Tom Dawson Trophy. But this Alan Turner Snowflake 100 is pretty prestigious as well on Saturday night. How much are you looking forward to that race?
Oh yeah, still a great race, great competition, both pro and super this weekend. As always here at the Derby week, it's just a fun week, you know, and glad to be here racing something, and want to thank Ty King for allowing me to come race, and got a good looking race car, and we tested Friday, and I felt like the handling was pretty good, so we're going to chip away at it today and see if we can't make it better.
You said it's a fun week. Is it also a stressful and a wide range of emotions during the week?
Yeah, I mean, it always is. Every weekend you race, there's always a little bit of that, and you just got to make the best of it. Whatever you're dealing with, you got to fight through it, and you know, this is a challenging week for everyone. So keeping up with the racetrack's the biggest thing. It's going to have a lot of up and downs on speed, so car's going to change a good bit. You just got to do a good job of making good adjustments.
Casey Roderick, the ASA Stars National Tour champion on the super late model side, concentrating on the pro late model here, guys.
Thanks, Bob. And that's a great point. You know, obviously, Casey Roderick is a polished veteran. You think of polished veterans in the field, like a Bubba Pollard, like a Stephen Nasse. And I'm sure, Adam, if you shine a bright enough light into the hearts of each one of those drivers, even though they may not show it on the surface, there are still some nerves, there's still some angst because of how important this race is.
It is, and they've got 6 hours today to fine-tune their cars. For Casey Roderick, it's the Snowflake that he's focusing on this week. For Bubba Pollard, Stephen Nasse, they're going to be on track a lot today, getting both cars for the Flake and the Derby ready to go. You see the drivers and teams on the ready, many strapped in their cars, just waiting for the go-ahead from the track to open up the half-mile beast that will lay claim to the 57th annual Snowball Derby here at Five Flags. We'll be back for the start of practice next.
beautiful sight you see on the front straightaway is the fact the track is drying nicely. Word from officials is we're not far away from the official start of on-track activity for this year's running of the Snowball Derby, with many of the drivers already locked and ready to position themselves to enter the track to see what they have fresh off the truck for the first chance on the weekend. Let's go down to Bob Dillner, who's trackside.
Guys, I'm like a little kid in a candy store right now. This is my favorite moment of the entire Snowball Derby. Yes, not even Sunday. The first time cars are on the racetrack. And all of the teams have prepared these beautiful race cars just for this moment, to get on the racetrack, to see where they gauge against the rest of the competition. The first car on the racetrack will be California's own Jeremy Doss. Jeremy's been coming down here for several years, still searching for that Tom Dawson trophy, and he's got a good-looking ride, this Hamke race car here. But what I love about practice, and this is what I've done for 20 years down here at Five Flags Speedway with the Snowball Derby, this is my favorite place to witness the opening laps of practice, because this is where the action happens. You say, why are you so pumped up about practice, Bob? Well, this is the part right here, this inside retaining wall. There's a couple of GoPro cameras here for a reason, because the cars, when they come down the front stretch and head into turn number 1, a lot of drivers will tell you they'll actually aim for this inside wall and come just about that far from touching the inside wall. They say that's the fast line around this racetrack. So that is something to watch. And sometimes, Adam, you know this as well as I do, sometimes there's some rub marks on the left side of the race car from guys getting a little bit too close. Stephen Nassy, Noah Gregson were joking around with my son Blaze saying, hey, I'm going to wave to you. And Blaze last year got some shots down here where they're giving them, the drivers were giving them the thumbs up and so forth. So it's just interesting to be down here to feel the speed, to hear the noise. But if you take a look at this field right here, all these cars now lined up with anticipation of getting on the racetrack. You have Billy Van Meter right here. He's out of Indiana. He's trying to make the Snowball Derby. Ty Majeski, we talked about him being the defending Snowball Derby champion with an iRacing machine. And then you have Brent Cruz in that Mobil 1 race car. He's going to be very fast here this weekend as well. And you just keep on going through the field. I remember Derek Kraus, the first time he ever made the Snowball Derby. He's a lot taller now than he was because he was a teenager back then. Michael Hine with that big win in the World Crown. And then there's Bubba Pollard. Bubba Pollard, after all these years, still searching for his first victory, his first opportunity to kiss the snowball on top of the Tom Dawson Trophy after 300 laps on Sunday. This is one that Bubba will not stop coming to this race until he's able to get the Snowball Derby. We know how good Bubba Pollard is behind the wheel of a super late model, yet he's never kissed that snowball, and that's something he wants to change this weekend.
Thanks, Bob. And of course, the easy analogies to pull are when John Elway finally won the Super Bowl, or when Dale Earnhardt finally won the Daytona 500, or when the Cubs finally won the World Series. The list goes on, and that's, I would say, Bubba Pollard, and you could second Stephen Nassy there as well, as two of the drivers who have done just about everything in their respective super late model career, then conquer this race. And for Bubba specifically, big year for him professionally, getting the opportunity to wheel that NASCAR Xfinity Series entry for Junior Motorsports at Richmond. Didn't qualify so well, raced up to a top 10 effort, earned another shot with Sam Hunt Racing, and maybe that's just another opportunity to give him a boost or a shot in the arm for what is the one mountain that he has yet to reach the summit to, this race at this racetrack.
And he's so good here. He's won many, many races at Five Flags Speedway, but the Derby is so tough, and everything has to fall into place. 300 laps, anything can happen, and you've got 50 of the best super late model racers in the country, so the talent level is so high. He's finished third. That's his best finish. Almost won this race a year ago. Had the problems with Stephen Nassy, but Bubba Pollard, definitely a threat. We look at Derek Thorne. We look at Ty Majeski, two drivers that were so good for a number of years, trying to claim that Snowball Derby win. They have their Snowball Derby victories now. Now we look at Bubba Pollard, we look at Stephen Nassy as guys that they're ready to get into victory lane, get that Tom Dawson trophy, and take it home.
We see many of the teams like that of the Pro Late Model organization, for that of Brandon Lopez, waiting for their turn to line up and go out for the racetrack to practice for the Snowflake 100 that will follow this first round of Snowball Derby practice once the thumbs up is given by the track crew. And look at this facility. And Adam, the first time that I'm going to be able to see this, on Sunday as we take a look at our overhead aerial shot courtesy of our drone. One of the unique facets to fans coming to this race over the course of the weekend, specifically on Sunday, is that all of the haulers that you see on the infield, there is an orchestrated effort to try to clear out that infield to give every spectator on the front stretch the best viewing opportunity to watch this race. And the effort that goes into with everyone here at the Speedway to make that happen in an efficient manner, it's remarkable, and I can't wait to see it for the first time. I had a blast watching hauler parking from a distance on the flow stream yesterday, let alone to see how they're going to clear out that infield.
Yeah, on Sunday, the infield clears out, the haulers are gone, fans get a great view even if you're in the lower row, and spectator vehicles go to the infield. The infield's still packed, but with low-profile vehicles, with folks camping out or tailgating in the infield as they watch the Snowball Derby.
Well, coming into the weekend, one of the drivers who has a spectacular average finish in the Derby, looking for a chance to win another one, is that of Chandler Smith. He's with Bob.
And Chandler Smith on top of the rig right now, looking at all the cars getting ready to go out for practice. Chandler, what is the strategy for this first practice session for you and this team?
Honestly, we're just going to kind of play it by ear. We had a good bit of rain here in Pensacola, Florida last night. And, the track's doing a really good job actually getting it dried up pretty well, but we tested a little bit. We got a good baseline. There's no need for us. We got more than enough practice this entire weekend to make sure we're still dialed in from where we ended the test. So kind of let these guys go out there and just keep an eye on them, see how everything is. Talk to my spotter, Chris Lambert, see what he thinks. And I don't know. We'll for sure be in the next practice session, though.
Will you learn anything by being up here and seeing what's going on with some of these competitors around the racetrack?
Well, for me, at least, I never really get to get out of the car and watch my competitors, see what their car looks like, their attitude stuff. So just with this unique situation, I'm able to actually go and watch them a little bit and not be focused on my stuff right now. So, yeah, it's kind of nice little downtime for me to kind of just see where everybody is right now, where the track is, watch the progression of the track get better. So
I want to know, we were chatting yesterday about both of us being at the Derby for a real long time. I remember the first time you got out of the pro late model at 12 years old, you were like this tall, okay? But you've seen this place for so many years. Now you're married, you got a couple of kids. What does it mean to you now coming to the Derby as opposed to when you were 12 years old?
It means more now than it did then, just because how much this racetrack's done for me in my career. I feel like really super late model racing as a whole is what's really shaped my career. It's what got me the chance to be in the Toyota pipeline. I was racing a Winchester 400, and Jack Irving approached me right after I finished second to Noah Gregson. He won that year, but we dominated that whole race, and I made a rookie mistake and got beat by the truck driver that year. But ultimately, super late model racing in this community has done so much for me, and especially this racetrack, Tim Bryant, the Bryant family, and just this racetrack's great. It's a very, very, very technical racetrack. You have to have a lot of finesse to get around here, and I agree. I've heard Bubba say it. I've heard a bunch of other drivers say it. If you can go win at Pensacola, you can go win anywhere, and I definitely second that statement.
And I think it's interesting to see your progression. I told you I was proud of you yesterday for all that you've done, not just on the racetrack, but in life in general. So having the family down here, have you maybe enjoyed the week more than ever before as when you were coming up through the ranks?
Oh, 100%. We've had a blast this week. So my oldest son, Junior, he's named after me. He's 2 years old, loves airplanes, loves race cars, racetracks, trains, the whole 9 yards. So we went over to the Aviation Museum over in Pensacola, and he was in heaven. And then I brought him into the racetrack yesterday through Tech Day. There's race cars everywhere, and his little heart was about to explode. So, to have him and my other son, Noble, here, and my wife, it's been a great week just being able to, it's a different atmosphere than what we're used to in the NASCAR world. It's a lot more laid back, less regulation, just more family, and less rules, I guess. And, it's been a great week for sure.
Chandler Smith, we're proud of him for everything he's done, including success in the NASCAR big leagues as well. But now a dad and a husband down here trying to get his second Tom Dawson trophy.
Thanks, Bob. And Adam, we heard Chandler give a lot of credit to his super late model career and what it's done for him up to this point. 3-time winner in the NASCAR Xfinity Series, twice this season with Joe Gibbs Racing. But his 2025 plans have not yet been announced, and I would imagine that another successful weekend here at Five Flags would do a lot for that young man's stock, who's proven time and time again he knows how to drive a race car.
No doubt he does. He's won the Snowball Derby. We're expected to see Chandler Smith as one of the favorites coming into Sunday. But you heard it. He's got plenty of track time, 6 hours hours of practice today, 3 hours for the super late models. No hurry to get on the racetrack. He knows he's got plenty of time to get it fine-tuned, and the track is really close to being ready to go. I think within the next 5 minutes or so, we're going to see cars on track.
Couple of spots that we're working still on the front straightaway. One of the, in fact, the defending winner of the Snowball Derby, two-time winner of this event, Ty Majeski, was kind enough to offer us a little bit of his perspective as to how to get around this racetrack and some of the practice laps he took on one of the test sessions. We'll take a look at those as we get set for practice kickoff here momentarily.
Welcome back to the Panhandle of Florida and Five Flags Speedway. We're kicking off the 57th running of the Snowball Derby, the biggest pavement super late model race in the country. I am Bob Dillner. We're excited to be with you this year on FloRacing, and we wanted to give you some perspective of how big this race is. How many cars are here? We talk about super late models and pro late models, about 50 apiece for both of those divisions. Well, Jim Trado and I have been doing all of our interviews over there. You see the jet dryers in the distance, some of the cars lined up to go on the racetrack once it is dried here today at Five Flags Speedway. And the cars are all pitted along that front stretch, but also here on the quarter mile in the infield. It just goes to show you how many cars are here. Jet Nolan, who has won a bunch of big races down here, but the cars are lined up throughout this entire infield. Vito Cancilla, we'll be talking to him a little bit later on. He's got a cool Snowball Derby paint scheme here. He's just 13 years old and doing double duty down here. Yes, a 13-year-old going after the Tom Dawson Trophy on Sunday here, if he's able to make it in the field via qualifying or the last chance race come Saturday here at Five Flags Speedway. But you look at all of these beautiful cars, and by the way, you see the snowflakes on Brandon Lopez's car right here. There is a contest for the best appearing car. Horvath Designs, HD5. A little bit later on today, they'll be putting up on their social media, and you'll be able to go on there and like and share and so forth, and there's a big points equation that they're going to have to get a calculator out for, but you'll get a vote in the best appearing car for both the Snowflake 100 on Saturday night, as well as the Snowball Derby for super late models come Sunday. But I see Santa there, a lot of people looking for gifts at the end of this one, a lot of money on the line as well, with $50,000 being paid to the winner of the Tom Dawson Trophy as the winner of the Snowball Derby on Sunday. But if you take a look at this, just incredible amount of race cars here in this quarter mile. But I'm told, guys, engines have fired here. We're about to get cars on the racetrack.
Thanks, Bob. The best thing that we've seen is that a lot of the track drawing equipment has started to make its way back to that infield that you alluded to. And Adam, the first Snowball Derby was held back in 1968, but the iteration that we know it as today essentially began in 2004. That was when Tim and Randy Bryan took ownership of this facility. And each and every year, you've known Tim and Randy for quite some time. I haven't had a chance to meet him just yet, but it seems as though every year, in just a short bit of dialogue that I've seen, there's always an incentive to try to find some way to make it better, more enjoyable, more convenient for the fans, for the competitors, and that desire and drive is what makes this whole event such a well-oiled machine.
You know, and it's not just a one-day event. We're talking like 5 days when you bring in the party, the pre-race party last night, hauler parking, and now we get cars on track today. And then local divisions get to race tonight for the evening show, the headliners tonight, the pro trucks, the sportsmen, the pure stocks, and the stands will fill up tonight. It won't be a sold-out crowd tonight, but there'll be thousands of fans watching the local drivers race for their Snowball Derby here tonight.
And for those competitors, they're fully aware of the added eyes and attention that comes with this weekend. Granted, every race at Five Flags Speedway carries a lot of significance for all competitors, but this weekend in particular, if you look at a lot of the racing resumes of some of the competitors that stretch across the super and pro late model field, a lot of them will highlight that they won a pro truck Snowball Derby, an outlaw Snowball Derby. It's a big, big deal for every group of cars that hit the track today, and we're going to be able to bring it all to you over the course of the next few days. And as you mentioned, great job with the pole draw last night. That was a lot of fun to watch. The kickoff party that we had on Tuesday, it's a week-long event, and I'm certainly adding days to my stay next year because I want to make sure I get to see all of it.
Absolutely. It's fun to get down here on Monday or Tuesday and be here for a whole part of the week. You talked about the different divisions and the importance of each race. A guy like Caden Honeycutt running the pros, the supers. He's also running in the modifieds, and he's running in the truck. So a busy guy is Caden Honeycutt. We're going to see a lot of him here this week.
Could see a lot of him in 2025 as well as he gets set for the kickoff to his full-time NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series tenure. And there is what we were hoping to see, the official kickoff to Snowball Derby practice in 2024. And many of the drivers who were strapped into their cars and waiting patiently now get their chance to tackle this half-mile oval for the first time in an official capacity for the 57th annual running of this race.
Up until 4 o'clock this afternoon, we will have practice rotating for hour-long sessions between the Snowflake cars and the Derby cars. We start with the super late models of the Derby. 44 car of Jeremy Doss, a multi-time starter in this race, has yet to finish in the top 10, but he's been fast. Used to watch him run his number 75 car. He's been in the number 44 the last several years, and comes all the way from the West Coast to compete in the Derby each year. He's a former Blizzard Series champion and always one of the favorites here at the Derby, but he's looking to get up there and battle in the top 5, give himself a chance to win here in 2024.
You heard Bob earlier talk about some of the other drivers that make up the field, including that of Billy Van Meter out of Indianapolis, Indiana. This is his 3rd attempt at the Derby, and that beautiful number 23, hoping to make his 2nd start after making the race last year, finishing 16th after starting way back in 35th. Hoping to keep that car clean. He will be the 2nd car who will be able to enjoy the green flag once the official track going hot takes place, with the green flag coming up shortly.
Billy has raced more than just about any super late model race of the last couple years, full-time on the Southern Super Series, the ASA Stars National Tour, and CRA. So he's had plenty of laps, not only just in the super late model, but here at Five Flags. And he says the car feels as good as he's felt here in some of the recent practice sessions. And you know this car is probably going to feel pretty good to this guy, Ty Majeski.
I love the footage we were able to show just a short while ago of watching how busy you are inside the race car, not only with the steering wheel, not only with the pedals down below or the floorboard as well, but also just how rough this racetrack could feel at times when you're on a flyer. And Majeski was kind enough to give us a peek into his vantage point before he's about to hopefully replicate some of what we saw with some quick lap times to see where they gauge at the start of this weekend.
Ty Majeski gives great input back to Toby Noodleman, his crew chief and car builder. Noah Gregson climbing behind the wheel of his race car, getting ready to go practicing. Former winner of the Snowball Derby, Winchester 400 winner as well. Noah Gregson's won a lot of big races. He knows how hard this Derby can be. We've seen Noah Gregson miss the Snowball Derby. That's how tough it is just to get into this race.
And that's a theme that runs across a lot of the competitors as the green flag waves to officially kick off the 1-hour time practice session for the Supers in the Snowball Derby. Snowflake 100 practice to follow. And how about Brent Cruz, the Mooresville, North Carolina native, who has been lighting things up no matter what he races. His career started in karting. He's trying to add himself to the pretty illustrious list of names of winners of this race over its race's tenure. We await his 2025 plans in an official capacity, but he's already been impressive at just about everything that he has wheeled. This is his first Snowball Derby attempt after running in the Snowflake twice.
Brent Cruz, so talented, 16 years of age, and he's one of the contenders this week. Beautiful race car. There's the 8, Carson Quapple, out of North Carolina, 21 years of age for Quapple. In a car that is kind of unique here. Not the normal Hamke, Port City left-hander. Some of the cars that you see run by many of the starters this weekend. Carson Quapple driving a car built by Dave Fuge.
And the relationship there, Dave Fuge worked with his father Travis when Travis won the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series title back in 2003. So full circle moment for Fuge and the Quapple family as we flash back to a driver that we got to catch up with at the kickoff party not that long ago. And Derek Kraus is back in one of the family owned and operated teams. And he's been very candid about his driving style and how it may not always necessarily tend to, I would say, front success in a race like this. That could get a little bit physical. Running for the family-owned operation for so long, his goal has always been to keep the car clean. This year, he seems to have a little bit more tenacity in his approach to this race as Bubba Pollard wraps up his first on-track run.
Early in this practice session, Brent Cruz, the youngster we saw in the 24 car, is quickest here in the first 5 to 7 laps as drivers log some laps. There's the number 21 car, Caden Honeycutt. We talked about his busy week. He's going to have 6 hours of practice just for the Supers and the Pros today, but going to be also competing in 2 other classes this week. Matthew Craig in the 54 from North Carolina. He's a familiar face at the Snowball Derby and many other big races across the country.
Recorded his best Derby finish last year, 5th, in what was his 5th consecutive start in the pinnacle of short track racing. You see Craig now following behind that of the number 89 of Dylan Feccio, Nashville Fairgrounds champion on multiple levels. And those two pretty much separated by about 3 car lengths as they work their way through 3 and 4.
Feccio didn't get a chance to race as much in 2024. They were using their race cars for some other drivers who were getting a chance to get behind the wheel in the Feccio machines. But Dylan, when he did get a chance to race, many of those times was right here at Five Flags Speedway, gaining more experience and looking to make his first Derby start.
Svetcho continues to flash across the line here for the first practice session for the Supers. Currently, Cole Butcher, tell me if you've heard this before, fastest after he has had a tremendous latter portion of 2024. He is the quickest as things stand right now.
Butcher took that time off for a month or so for the health issue, surgery to fix an issue that he had with his heart. Back up and running is Cole Butcher, and he's at the top of the board before Shepard moves to the top of the board now. Buddy Shepard going to the top in the 22.
First car that we saw hit the track was the 44 of Jeremy Dosh. Jim Trado is trackside with an update.
Yeah, he's already brought it back in, but I want to show you what this team is already doing. Cody Lick, who's part of the principals, co-owner of Hamke Chassis, has been working with Jeremy for the last several years, including going to the West Coast for his SRL Southwest Tour races. Cody's right here at the hood, pop the hood. First thing they did, check tire pressure. Second thing they did, put these fans in the wheels to get it cool down in there. Jeremy's not set a hold on the radio just yet, but they want to make the changes now. Again, this green racetrack has provided them a glimpse of what they want to do today. There's multiple rounds of practice, but they are at it already. This is just typical of what you may see of these teams at this level, getting the car prepared. Not a lot of communication. They all know their position and what they're doing. Cody Lick's here to help direct it here with Jeremy Doss.
Thanks, Jim. And Jeremy Doss is someone we've already touched on it. West Coast native, one of many who have prioritized figuring out Five Flags for the sole purpose of hoping to one day hoist that Tom Dawson trophy. And it appears as though that entire team is poised and ready with their game plan and agenda to see what they got to do to make that car better yet, as it looked pretty solid out there. Still fourth on the board, being the first one out on a very green racetrack initially.
Nicholas Noggle in the 25. Different number for Noggle. We're used to seeing him compete in a 08 car, but Nicholas Noggle driving the number 25, trying to get up to speed. You know, early on, just getting out there, feeling out the cars, feeling out the track. It shows like, you know, in the outer grooves, like there's maybe some dampness, but in the racing groove, it looks good. And this track dried quickly today, thanks to the help of the Owasso Speedway track crew. 98 car on track. We know this guy, David Gilliland, making an attempt for the Snowball Derby. We've seen son Todd compete at the Derby in the past. David behind the wheel, former NASCAR Cup Series star David Gilliland.
Currently serves as one of the co-owners amongst Tricon Garage. Has made a lot of driver announcements over the course of the last few days for the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series plans next year. One of them he will be racing against in the Derby, hopefully should they both make the show, and that of Gio Ruggiero. One of the Lapsevich brothers on the racetrack. This one, Caden Lapsevich, number 76. And we'll drop down to Bob Dillner, who's down in the pit lane.
Derek Thorne, a four-time pole sitter for the Snowball Derby, one victory to his credit. Derek, I saw you on top of the rig. Why were you waiting to get out on the racetrack for practice here this morning?
The track being cleared off of rubber with the rain last night, I feel like it's going to take a while for it to rubber up. I think with no rubber, track's going to feel amazing, so I think the only accurate way to do it for us is to wait for the track to rubber up a little bit. Try to get the best deal we can on a race car for later in the week.
What have you seen by looking at the competition out there? What have you seen so far?
Not a lot. Looks like there's a lot of good cars. Time will tell. I think this tire is going to make everybody pretty darn close. It's going to be a game of inches. And to be able to be up front of the Derby, you got to be underage.
Thank you, Derek. We appreciate it. By the way, guys, that tire thing is something that we're going to be hearing a lot about here this weekend, because a new right side tire for sure, a little stiffer sidewall, changing the complexion of how drivers tackle this racetrack.
And Bob, I think that brings up a really good point here, as you see Noah Gregson giving it all he's got off turn 4. I think with the tire situation that both Bob and Jim have been alluding to throughout their pit reports down trackside, it's kind of shifted some of the ideology as to how this race will flow. In the past, Adam, we would say that qualifying may not be all that important. Strategy and the preservation of your tires, but now with that ST1 on the left and the ST3 on the right, some teams may be more emphasizing how they qualify tomorrow night, because passing could end up being a little bit more difficult than what we've seen.
Yeah, and I think where you start in the Derby isn't that important, but making the show is. That's what makes qualifying so important, is getting into the top 30. I think if you make it in the top 30, you're pretty happy. Obviously, you've got guys like Derek Thorne, Ty Majeski, Bubba Pollard. They want to qualify in the top 5, top 10 to avoid having to race through the field. You see the other 76 car on track right there. Cole Raz out of Oregon, a 21-year-old driver. Kind of that Unical 76 look to it, like the old 76 ball.
Cole Raz, one of the drivers, again, based essentially on the West Coast, trying his hand in Snowball Derby, hoping to make this race for the second time. Here was one of the late announcements, this coming out of the Pollard Motorsports stable. It's a driver who had much success on the NASCAR Xfinity Series side with Junior Motorsports this season, including a win at Talladega this past September. Now trying his hand at the Derby once more. This is Sammy Smith out of Johnston, Iowa, driving as a teammate to that of Bubba Pollard.
And rare to see him in a number 8 car. I think familiar watching him drive a 22 in the past. Drove for the Donnie Wilson Motorsports team. One of our multiple 54 cars that we have on hand is Connor Sutton, local driver, Pensacola, Florida, 21 years of age, looking to make his first Snowball Derby.
He attempted the race last year, but was unable to time his way in or race his way into the last chance event. As right now, as we look at the stopwatch, working our way through this first 1 hour block for super late model practice for the Snowball Derby, Buddy Shepard is the quickest over Cole Butcher, Brent Cruz, Jeremy Doss, Gio Ruggiero, we were talking about earlier, rounds out that top 5. Back down to the pit lane to Jim Trado.
Well, one driver that was the second to last to enter this race, I believe he was the last super late model driver, is David Gilliland. NASCAR Cup Series driver, owner now of Tricon Garage. David Gilliland has built this race car to return to the Derby. He was here in 2019, but he and his buddies who started that super late program, if you recall, about 10 years ago, Rafael Lessard, his son Todd Gilliland, others were racing for David Gilliland in super lates. That same team, that same group of guys, Chris Lawson, Derek Smith, his twin brother Seth Smith, they're all crew chiefs in NASCAR. They all came back to the shop at night, a couple hours a week, to put this super late model together with David's designs and their thoughts to get a car they built themselves to race here at the Derby. They got some track time last weekend, just one other shakedown, and this car is now going through its first paces officially here this weekend. And the number 98 for David Gilliland, the NASCAR star, back here himself at 48 years young to try to make his second Derby.
The fastest driver in practice so far, Buddy Shepard. We've caught up with him. What does it mean to be fastest this early in practice day?
No, it's pretty cool. You know, a lot of good guys here. Maybe the best in the country here. It's really hard to get a clean lap out there. They're already going out, but I think we got a pretty good car for this weekend, and keep on going.
How is the car right now, and what have you learned about it?
It's not bad. We're a little snug getting in, a little snug rolling, so we're going to work on a little bit.
Buddy Shepard, one of those guys to keep an eye on. Remember, a few years ago, guys, he finished second to Kyle Busch in the Winter Showdown out in Bakersfield, California.
Thanks, Bob. We see Billy Van Meter back out on the racetrack, and then number 23 for his second go-around of this session. And as Bob mentioned, talking about that of Buddy Shepard, he too, another West Coast native, made several ARCA Menard Series West starts, including last October. Started 4th up there at Kevin Harvick's current raceway, suffered a mechanical effort, but there's been pace out of that race team and organization. And he was showing it here up till a few moments ago when Derek Thorne knocked him off the top of the pylon.
Not a huge surprise.
No, not at all.
I don't think anyone here is shocked that Derek Thorne is on top of the board. There's our first look at this beautiful number 4 car. Driver from Wisconsin, Luke Fenhaus. Young talented star from the Midwest Tour. Had a chance to compete in some of the upper ranks of NASCAR as well. As the field slows, Joseph Meyer in the 121 hand out the window for our first yellow flag during this first session for the Snowball Derby. This session going up until 11:10 with the late start, as they still were drying the track at 10 a.m. this morning. We're going to go to 11:10 for the super late models. Work continues down in the pits. Derek Thorne currently on top of the board as our fastest competitor. There's the Cole Raz 76 pit stall as well.
It's going to be a scheduled caution just for a brief track inspection and to allow some people to get in and out of the pit area here in what is a very jam-packed schedule at Five Flags Speedway. So far, 41 cars have been out on the racetrack so far. What is the first official practice for the 57th annual Snowball Derby here at Five Flags Speedway. We'll be back for more on-track activity right after this.
Nearly 6 hours of practice today for super late models and pro late models combined during the Snowball Derby weekend. It's practice day Thursday here at Five Flags Speedway in Pensacola, Florida. Excited to be with you again here, this time live on FloRacing. This guy called Raz, pretty good, just outside the top 10 in speed right now. What do you like about your race car?
You know, I was really happy with our test on Monday. I feel like our race stream was pretty solid, so that's what we're switching back to now. We did kind of a half mock right there. I was pretty proud with the time, so it's something I don't really do is go mock out after a couple of days off, right? So it's good to experience that. A lot of good count here, and I think we got a good 76 cycle renewable truck stop forward here and see what we can do the rest of the day.
How's the racetrack right now for you?
It was cold, for sure. Took in a few extra laps to get tire temps built in, but they did a great job grinding it up and gave us a chance to go get some track time today.
Cole Raz won that big race at the Bull Ring in Vegas, one of those Car Store Super Late Model events back in October, Jim.
Dylan Petro has raced in the last 6 Snowflake 100 races, a former track champion here in Pro Late Models. He's trying to make it the first effort in the Snowball Derby. This number 89 car, they're just putting the hood pins back on. Dylan was under the hood a moment ago, replacing the carburetor on his Super Late Model. So as much track time as Petro's had, he's trying to make his first Derby. He is actually now getting in the car. He was out early on, had a carb issue, so one of the first, I would say, issues on pit road, back here in turn 2 of the quarter mile. Dylan Fetcher now getting that corrected with his team and climbing back in for some more laps.
Thanks, Jim. As we see the green flag is back out for this first practice session. Here's someone who has had quite the year, not only with his NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series duty, but also in the super late model. He's been running quite well throughout every attempt and start that he has made. This is, of course, that of Jake Garcia out of Eatonton, Georgia. Driving the number 35 here. 4 prior Snowball Derby starts, including a runner-up on his debut here in 2019.
Yeah, just 14 years of age when he finished runner-up at the Snowball Derby. Jake Garcia right then turned a lot of heads, and they said, this kid's going to be pretty good. He's had a chance to make several other attempts. He's yet to find victory lane in that Tom Dawson Trophy, but Jake Garcia, obviously a strong finish to his season. All-American 400 weekend. Jake Garcia, a talented driver in the 35.
See Brent Cruz wrapping up, a bit of an opportunity to be on the racetrack there as well as we look at one of the Rackley War entries. And a lot of announcements coming out of this team. This, the driver that's going to be holding the steering wheel for their lone truck entry in 2025. Dawson Sutton out of Lebanon, Tennessee. And just about a month ago, this team announced they're going to shift their racing operation from Tennessee, where they're based out of, and move over towards the Carolinas. In fact, they're going to be taking over one of the old GMS race shops. And along with that movement and realignment comes a relationship with Kevin Harvick Incorporated, with Kevin himself actually serving as a bit of a driving coach and mentor to Dawson as he continues up the racing pipeline. And I think it's safe to say we could expect to see Kevin and son Keelan wheel a Rackley War car at some point or many times in 2025. Let's go to Bob.
Here's what's interesting about this Rackley War team. Take a look at their compound down here in the infield, and they are the quarter-mile portion of the racetrack here in the infield. They brought down 5 race cars, a few pros, a couple of pros, and a few super late models as well. So this operation is unbelievable. You talked about that association with Kevin Harvick as well, but if you think about things, Adam, I'm going to go back to you on this, and you think about how years ago, they used to come down here with open trailers, then it went to the small enclosed trailers, then to the big rigs. And now teams are coming down here and setting up a compound like the Rackley War team here is doing this weekend. It's just incredible to see where racing has come and the importance of the Snowball Derby.
And Bob, the technology of it. I mean, the cars, the multi-team cars, they're tough to beat. Some of the smaller budget teams come here and they say, we know we have our work cut out for us, Eric, because we're competing against teams like Rackley War. They have their stuff together. They have a talented team. The Donnie Wilson Motorsports team, the Campy team. Though the Campy team's not huge, you know you're going to be competing against the best stuff and compete against them as well.
That setup reminds me of what you would see when you would travel with some of the national karting organizations and just how they would set up, like Bob said, literal compounds and tents. Although it's a lot easier to fit 10 go-karts under a small sector of land in the pit area than it is 10 race cars. But Just when you think that teams have all the resources available in order to work cohesively to make every car as best as it can be, these race teams are just finding another notch to turn it up to do the best they can.
You saw him for just a moment. Bob talked to him earlier in what I thought was a great interview with Chandler Smith. Chandler said he wasn't in a hurry to get out there. He's got plenty of time. But when he did go out there just moments ago, look how far up the board he jumped. Second quick for former winner Chandler Smith.
And I think that is a huge indication of confidence for not only that driver, but that race team. We were happy with the car in the test. We're going to go out there and shake it down right towards the top of the pylon as we catch eyes now on Mobile, Alabama's Dustin Smith in the 33, paired up with one of his longtime and tenured spotters, and that of Charlie Brown, who travels from the Carolina region, only spends a lot of time up there working with late model stock and modified teams, but his relationship with Dustin has been very, very strong. And Dustin is hoping to make his first Snowball Derby in his super late model career.
Ty Majeski in the 91 shown briefly there. Majeski 12th right now on the board. Connor Jones will be busy this week and today, running both the Pro and the Super for the Derby and the Flake. Connor Jones now 18 years of age, and Connor Jones in the 44 looking to make his third Derby start.
Let's go back down trackside to Jim Trado.
Well, driver who's got 15 laps in already is Jake Garcia, the winner of the All-American 400. Jake Garcia, the NASCAR Truck Series star, is here back with Turnco Motorsports and 2000 Snowball Derby champion driver Ricky Turner. We'd like to talk to Ricky, but guess what? He's under the hood of the car right now. They're actually looking for one more run in this first practice session. Jake is 0.183 seconds back, just inside the top 20 in speeds. That gives you an indication how close these times are. But Jake Garcia and this team, they've worked on their short track program all year. Seth Christensen's also in the Turnco camp. He's also here helping out. His turn is next in their pro late model, but Ricky Turner, hard at work, battling the stars, the Wilson camp, the Campy camp, the teams that have come prepared. They know when Ricky Turner shows up, they've got somebody to battle against in this effort for this team based in Dawsonville, Georgia.
And over here in the War Rackley team, you take a look at the Dawson Sutton car, and it's an interesting red combination with black snowflakes. I've never seen black snowflakes, but it's interesting, and it'll be up for one of the best appearing cars for the HD5 best appearing car. But what I love is the fact that this team, not only does it have a good paint scheme, but Darryl will have you come back to the front end of this machine. This team with Willie Allen has been working on the suspension on this car to get that nose sealed off at the front of this machine. So a lot of times when you come down here to the Derby, and I'm a former car owner, heck, I had the late Bobby Gill in my car back in 2009. Very proud he finished fourth in the Snowball Derby that year. But as we get the camera to come back over here to the front end of the machine, and we're not going to go looking inside really the engine, we're going to back up a little bit. But if you take a look at those coilovers on the front end of this machine, you see a red cover on that. And that red cover is to hide things from other competitors so they can't tell what you're doing with your shock and your spring combination. So sometimes it's really to show you something that you're not supposed to see and hide it from the rest of the competition.
Thanks, Bob. Great look at everything going on down there as we see Sammy Smith back out on the racetrack, continuing to roll through this first 1 hour block of rotating practice session for the Snowball Derby, with a lot of the pro late model teams beginning to think about how they will hit the track for their first opportunity, with Smith continuing to lay down some laps. Derek Thorne still the fastest.
Kind of looking at the top 10, seeing if I notice any surprises. Nothing really stands out too much. I think I'm impressed with the 22 car, and he did it very early in the session. Buddy Shepard making his debut at the Derby, and to be on track and be in the top 3 right away, that's a pretty good sign. It means that car has speed. Bubba Pollard seeing if his number 26 has speed. He's been out there a couple of times, just outside of the top 10 right now, 11th. He's been historically a pretty good qualifier here, many times qualifying into the top 10 for the Derby.
So far, 43 cars have hit the racetrack and taken time so far. Only 2 that have not, that were signed up and officially entered to run this race, were that of Trayton Lavsvich and Ed Van Meter. Trayton is someone who I had a chance to touch base with last night, and he sounded very similar to what Chandler Smith had said. We were so happy with how things went on Monday. We're looking forward for an opportunity to shake the car down, but there didn't seem to be a lot of urgency to get out there, as if there was something specific they needed to hone in on this early morning session. Trayton, who has been just so impressive in a late model stock car with Chad Bryant Racing on the Car Store side. Now going to try his hand at the Snowball Derby, racing alongside, just like the Quapples, alongside his brother Caden as well, hopefully, should they make the show come Sunday.
Trayton, who hasn't been on track, his brother on the flip side, Caden, has turned the most laps on the track in this practice. Tied with Billy Van Meter, who we have on screen right now. Billy's been out there for 21 laps. That's the most turned by anyone. He and Caden Lapsovich, as they shake down their race cars, maybe even performing some race runs or just get comfortable with the car. Sammy Smith, he's been on track quite a bit as well. Sammy Smith in the TMC 8.
Well, Smith continues to lay down some flyers. Let's go back to Jim.
Yeah, Sammy's raced with Donnie Wilson, racing in the past this weekend with Bubba Pollard. I want to give you a glimpse of how many people, how many race cars. Donnie Wilson racing in Rockville, Oklahoma City, now in Mooresville. Jared Butcher, his brother Cole Butcher. Cole's top 5 in speeds right now. The double zero Renfrew Jr. He's also a Donnie Wilson car here. This is Brent Cruz, super late model. We're walking on by. This is Chandler Smith's number 2, the second fastest car right now in practice. And this is Gio Rogero's white number 22. These are all Donnie Wilson Motorsports cars. Think about the number of people, the number of crew members, the number of people they draw from to help them with this massive effort here to win not only Saturday's Snowflake 100, but repeat for Chandler as a Snowball Derby champion. Again, the 2 cars, Chandler Smith, second quickest in the practice, Cole Butcher 5th. They've got 2 guys in the top 5. They're working hard to get a lot more on top of the mileage.
Thanks, Jim. And that's something we talk about a lot in racing is, you know, one of the reasons why we all love it so much, it's about the people. But to run well here, you need a lot of help traditionally. There's a lot of people working on these race cars right now.
It's busy time and it's frantic. You would think 6 hours of practice today, got plenty of time to work on the car, but it's making those small adjustments, coming in, making another adjustment. Was the car any better there? What do we need to do to make it better? You know, even if we're top 20 on the speed chart, do we still need to make the car better? Do we keep adjusting, or do we adjust ourselves out of a good car? I was watching the 32 there moments ago. Caden Quapple, his car is on the free side. He was skating that car off of the corners. That's probably not what he wants for a feel of a race car at this point in practice.
And we have to imagine that race teams are also documenting the weather conditions. Right now, we're approaching the top of the hour here in Central Time. It's about to be 11 a.m., 7 minutes from now. It is currently 63 degrees, but very cloudy. There's a chance, based on the extended forecast, that Sunday could not be shattered across in clouds. So if some of these drivers and teams are focusing on race runs, they'll have to note that conditions may be much different than what they're going to experience come race time, should the forecast stay as is.
I think in most drivers' minds right now, it's all about that focus to have the great qualifying run. Tomorrow night at 6 o'clock, Eric, I don't think you've probably been a part of such a qualifying session. The drama, the anticipation that builds up to that 6 o'clock Central Time qualifying session tomorrow night is huge, and I think that's what is in everybody's minds right now, making the top 30.
Another driver who carries a lot of West Coast prowess and also a big fan base out from Spokane, Washington. Hayden Klybon is with Bob Dillner.
Yeah, Northwest Super Late Model champion last year, and this is what I love about the Derby. You come there, you look at the speed chart, you know, towards the end of the first practice for Super Late Models, this kid, top 5. How does that make you feel right now?
Feels pretty good. It definitely helps pay off all the hard work we've done, and we tested here Monday, had some good speed. I'm glad we're carrying it on later in this week.
I want to know, though, if you take a look at the back of this race car right now, there are a lot of snowballs with a bunch of names on them. What is the story behind that?
Oh, it's just something we do to involve the Northwest and help us get back here. Everybody that's on there, somebody who's supported us to get here and just helped us out in any way they can. And I'm glad that all of them are putting in their dues and, helping us out get here.
That's a pretty neat deal for Hayden Klybon here. He's had a lot of success out west, Jim.
The driver had success in the cars for the late model tour just a couple years ago. Is back at the Derby for the 3rd straight year in his family team out of Wausau, Wisconsin. Luke Fenhouse in this number 4. You qualified 5th last year, finished 8th, but you look like you got some work to do to get to that point. What are you guys working on now, Luke?
Yeah, just trying to get the overall balance better. I felt like we had an okay car Monday when we came here and showed up. Now today is a little bit different. So a lot cooler, overcast skies, a little bit different, and the rest of the weekend will be different. So it'll be interesting to see how it plays out, and just to get overall better balance for this thing, and hopefully we can perform up front this weekend.
You're in a long discussion in the hauler and drag you out of that. What are you guys talking about? What kind of changes do you think you want to make to this car today in practice?
yeah, it was just a newer racetrack for this team. I mean, we're normally in the Midwest in Wisconsin, and we don't come down here to Five Flags very often. So I think this is our second or third year with this team, and just trying to get a better overall balance. I feel like a lot goes into the front shocks into these race cars, and I think that's the key to winning races. So we're trying to figure it out and work on it and keep getting better for this weekend.
Luke's knowledge was beyond behind the wheel. He was actually here a couple of years before he even drove here, came down here to be part of a crew to get this idea figured out about the tackle and the challenge of racing the Snowball Derby.
Thanks, Jim. And Luke's got a lot of experience here outside of the Derby. He finished runner-up here in an ARCA Menard Series East race last year and qualified the car that Connor Zilic ended up running here to kick off 2024 with the East slate, as we see another Northwestern native and Casey Klein bringing his Jamie Yelton racing car in to see if they can turn some attention to that entry and get it a little bit higher up the scoring charts here as this practice continues to wind on.
Casey Klein, the 24 Northwest Super Late Model Series champion, making his debut at the Snowball Derby. Several drivers making their first attempt. This guy is familiar with this racetrack. One of the local favorites, Timothy Watson. Talented driver, former champion in the Outlaw division here at the racetrack. Timothy Watson has been in victory lane numerous times here, but racing in the Derby this weekend for the second time. Finished 15th a year ago, did Watson.
That 15th place effort for Watson came after starting back in 33rd position. We talk about how drivers put a lot of stock in any event that takes place over the course of the weekend here at Five Flags. Runner-up at the Outlaw Snowball Derby in 2021 for that of Watson. Hoping to get that super in the show. This is a car you can't miss at all weekend long. The 82 of Michael Scott.
Sideways off of 4 the last time. Let's see if it stays underneath him this time. Hit wicked loose on exit. Look, it's definitely not comfortable right now for Michael Scott on the exit of 4.
One of the most fun things about watching super late model racing, specifically here at Five Flags Speedway, is when you see these cars get later into a run, it's almost like they activate the rear steer with the way in which they could mash the throttle off the corner and use it to steer that car back up towards the straightaway. But I agree with you, Adam. I believe Michael may be flirting with a little bit too much of rear steer, if you will, with the throttle off of turns 2 and 4.
He's right now 23rd out of the 43 cars that have been on track, so it's shown a little bit of speed, maybe not quite driving like he would like, maybe not comfortable coming off the corner, but still able to show some speed so far.
There's another one of the Rackley War cars, Nicholas Noggle, trying to make his first Snowball Derby after attempting the Snowflake last year.
Gio Ruggiero in the 22 car. New scheme for Gio this week. We're used to seeing the black and red car. Now we got the white and black car. A sharp look for Gio Ruggiero, a talented racer from Massachusetts. Gonna be one of the favorites this weekend for that Donnie Wilson Motorsports entry. They got the front end all taped up, maybe making a mock qualifying run here as Ruggiero.
Ruggiero is someone who already locked down his plans for next season. He knows he's going to be wheeling a truck for Tricon Garage full-time in 2025. So not having anything to worry about in terms of this race impacting his future. We'll see what he's got in store for us this year in terms of the Snowball Derby, as Ruggiero now is in 9th position in terms of the stopwatch. And he's going to bring it back to the attention of his crew this time. Driver just wrapped up his second consecutive ARCA Menard Series East title. William Sawalich is with Bob Dillner.
And he's been out on the racetrack, Eric, practicing this number 62 machine. You're not there towards the top of the board, but what have you learned so far with this race car?
Yeah, of course, you're just trying to get in the swing of things back in super late models. Been in the big heavy cars this whole year, so just trying to get back in the swing of things, learning things with the team. The Rackley Ward team really good. They've been good here last year and in past years, so hopefully we'll find that speed. Just working through a little bit of bugs right now.
So what did you learn about this race car? What does it feel like right now?
Yeah, not a lot of front turn. At the test, it was really good for that. We found some good changes, but now coming here when there's a bunch of rubber and had some wetness on the track and they dried that off, just definitely changed a lot. So that went away completely. So we're trying to find something to get that back.
I want to ask you this. How difficult is it to kind of keep in mind that, hey, this is the first practice session, qualifying is tomorrow, different temperatures tomorrow and so forth. How much do you as a team need to keep that in mind?
Yeah, I mean, I think we all know that we just have a lot of time to work on it and make a lot of adjustments. And we got 2 more practices today that are an hour. So as long as we get these first bugs worked out, we can focus on the balance of the car.
William Sawalich, he'll be fast no matter what. especially probably come Sunday here at Snowball Derby.
So Walsh, another driver whose 2025 plans are already sewed up and laid out for him, moving up to the NASCAR Xfinity Series with Joe Gibbs Racing, driving the number 18 car next year. Wants to take the Tom Dawson Trophy along with him as Garcia's hanging it out off 4.
We've seen a lot of that. Finding that moment, you mentioned, like, you know, car turning from the rear, making sure that it has that good rotation through the corners. At what point does it become too much? Maybe right there, because Jake Garcia backs off coming out of turn 2 and says, okay, take it to the pits, let's work on it a little bit more.
As we were listening along to the Sawallich interview with Bob, I was watching this car, Dawson Sutton, off turn 4 2 laps ago, doing the same thing, this time much straighter exit off of the final corner and down to the line. But we're starting to hit that point in this practice session where some of these teams may be pressing a little bit harder to see what the cars are going to do when they've knocked some of the good off of the Hoosier rubber they've got to work with.
We have 8 minutes left in this first session for the Snowball Derby. And the Snowflake cars will hit the racetrack for about an hour-long session as Dawson Sutton, what a talented young racer he is, 18 years of age, has a bright future. And some would say the future's now what he did in super late models this year, winning a big race, beating Ty Majeski in Ty's own backyard, the Milwaukee Mile earlier this year, and had a great season on the ASA Stars National Tour, won the championship at Nashville Fairgrounds Speedway in the Pro Late Model Division with a handful of feature wins. Cole Raz in the 76 back on track.
Now, one thing that race teams are going to have to keep in mind here, there's a little bit of weather that's starting to develop off to the west, and it is moving in this direction. And it looked as though once we got some of the precipitation out of here in the morning, we would be clear for the rest of the day. But unfortunately, right around over by the Gulfport area, a little bit further over into Alabama, there is a system that's starting to develop, and that may shorten up some of the agendas that the race teams have put together in terms of what they wanted to test and tune on throughout the afternoon. Should the schedule get condensed? Should Mother Nature intervene?
There might be something in the back of their minds. The forecast still looks pretty good hourly. I think they're expecting that rain that is showing up on radar to dissipate before it gets here, but even if that's the case, there could still be that light drizzle that hits the area. Let's hope that that's not the case. We get a chance to get plenty of track time today for the Supers and the Pro Late Models. There's a first look at a beautiful number 14 car there of Connor O'Kresick, another former champion here at Five Flags Speedway, working with crew chief Mike Garvey. Kresick backs it down and makes his way to the pits. One of the drivers with the most laps turned here at Five Flags Speedway over the years, his home track.
Watch a handful of cars continue to loop around. Let's go to Bob.
Well, the Pro Late Models will hit the racetrack in just a few minutes, so wanted to chat with some of the Pro Late Model drivers who have some cool-looking paint schemes. You see snowflakes, Christmas lights on the side of Luke Baldwin's machine as he gets set to go out in his family-owned Pro Late Model here for snowflake practice. But what are you trying to accomplish in this first practice session, Luke?
We really just need to find a good baseline. We've only ran 2 races with this car. We haven't had a lot of time to work on it. We didn't get to test, so we're kind of coming out just trying to find a good baseline, find a good balance to start, make some laps, get me accommodated. Yeah, I'm pretty confident. I know my dad's no slouch when it comes to working on any race car, so I trust that will roll out of the box pretty good.
And I know you've had a couple fendered starts this year, but we know you really because of that championship with a Smart Modified Tour. You can see all those races on FloRacing, but what is it like going from the open wheels with the big tires, all that horsepower, to a Pro Late Model here at Five Flags?
At the end of the day, it's got 4 wheels and a steering wheel, so it's not that different. I mean, the horsepower is a big jump. Like it's a lot more momentum based with these things than the modified. You can kind of make up for a lot down the straightaway with those. So just gonna have to find more of a consistent rhythm with a full fendered car, and it's a different style of racing with a completely different group of guys. So yeah, just I've watched a lot of video, and I obviously have a little bit of experience in these. So I don't think we'll have any problems with that. I kind of know a lot of these guys, know who I'm racing, so I don't think the jump will be that different, but we'll see how it goes.
He's mentioned his dad, by the way, Tommy Baldwin, a former Daytona 500 winning crew chief for Ward Burton, and his granddad, the Tiger Tom Baldwin, a pretty good shoe in the modifieds throughout the years.
Thanks, Bob. Luke, fresh off of what was a top 5 effort, the Tour Mod event up at Turkey Derby at Wall Stadium Speedway. Now coming back to the car with the fenders on it as we take a look at Nick Loden, who is scheduled to pull double duty across both the Super side here at the Derby, as well as the Snowflake. It's the family-owned operation and car with his father, Andy. Second-generation racer is that of Nick. He's had a lot of success coming up the ranks in Pro Late models, and he has a top 10 here in a Pro Truck. That was in this year that he took part in one of those Pro Truck events. Now trying his hand at the Derby for the first time. Nick Loden making his first Derby start. If he can make the show through qualifying, or one of those last chance qualifiers coming up this Saturday afternoon, but has started in the Snowflake before, so definitely some experience here, including this year, as you mentioned, in the trucks. Practice starting to wind down for this first wave for the Supers. Let's go to Jim Trado for an update trackside.
Yeah, Jake Garcia's car was pushed back to his pits. Keep in mind, his pit stall is not on the front straightaway, it's on the quarter mile. So a lot of long push for Jake Garcia's team in the Turnco Motorsports, but it does not appear to be anything drastic. They've got the hood up, fans in, wiping off the tires, physically wiping off the tread of the tires as well for one more run potentially for Jake Garcia in this one. But no apparent damage. They're not thrashing on the engine compartment, so whatever it was, perhaps they just wanted to push him back with the fuel they had. Jake Garcia's car is here, but they did hand scrub the tires, thinking that they want to keep these used tires on to get the feel of this car with tires that have some laps on them here as Garcia stays in the cockpit of his Freight Racing 35.
Thanks, Jim. One of the drivers that we talked about that we were going to see throughout the weekend is that of this young man out of Martinez, California, in Vito Cancilla. Nicknamed Vito the Torpedo, trying to make his first Snowball Derby. Started racing at just 8 years old in quarter midgets, went full-time in a Pro Late model this year at age 12 when he kicked off the season. And Vito is someone who, along with many of the other West Coast participants we have in this event, has been catching a lot of attention for good reason.
Had one issue in practice a week ago. I believe it was the Pro Late model car. They got into the wall, backed it in a little bit. They were able to fix that car over the last few days. I think that wreck happened last Friday, but they've got it all wrapped up. He's going to have plenty of laps on track to gain experience at just 13 years of age.
Talk about having to handle the pressure of not only running this race, but just making this race over the course of the next 48 hours, with qualifying set for tomorrow evening. And then, if needed for that team, the last chance race, which will run on Saturday. Here's a driver who's been logging a lot of laps in that, of Noah Gregson of the Rhett Jones Racing operation. And Adam, it appears that they're trying to garner either as much information or as much of a level of comfort for Noah, being that he has been running these cars all that often, with his NASCAR Cup Series duties continuing on into 2025, albeit with a different team. He's been logging a lot of laps out there.
And for Noah Gregson, as talented as he is, and he's won the Derby, he, in recent years, has missed the Derby. Did not qualify in, and right now he's looking for speed. He's 40th on the speed chart right now. He's turned plenty of laps, trying to get that car better and better as Noah Gregson.
Adam, one thing you've been touching on throughout our coverage here has been that of number of laps run. And if you look at our scoring pylon on the left-hand side of your picture, Derek Thorne, who is our quickest, has only run 8 laps. Chandler Smith pretty much just went out there, shook the car down, laid down a flyer, 3 laps total, they went back. Buddy Shepard also in the single digits. You have to go back to Brent Cruz, who's 6th on the scoring charts, to find anyone who has gone over 10 laps in the front runners in terms of total laps completed. And then you start to see some drivers like that of Jeremy Doss, who's been out there for 20. And then when you get outside that top 10, Bubba Pollard nearly 30. Sammy Smith, 26. Chase Hansen, 25. You could tell some of the teams, just by this practice session with a handful of laps to go, who's confident and who's searching.
Yeah, you mentioned it. The top 5, they're pretty confident. They've got speed, so they don't have to go out there and try to make major adjustments and continue to get laps to see if they can make their car better. They know they have good pieces right now. Thorne, Smith, Shepard, Plyben, and Butcher, all really fast race cars. Why go out there and just run the heck out of it for lap after lap? Some of these guys is trying to get their cars better.
See a couple of drivers taking advantage of what will be the last few moments of the first round of practice for the super late models here in the Snowball Derby for 2024. Again, Derek Thorne still the fastest. Pro late model competitors waiting in the wings for their chance. In fact, they pretty much already lined the exit of the pit lane for them to be given the go-ahead to get out there and turn some laps.
Winding down now as this session comes to an end. Checkered flag waving. Kyle Steckley, Rookie of the Year with the ASA Stars National Tour, making his way to pit road. What a season he had. Super late models in Canada, as well as here in the United States. So we send it back down to Bob Dillner.
Michael Hind is going to be a busy driver here at Five Flags Speedway this weekend. This is his super late model he just climbed out of. He'll be going to the pro late model here for the next round of practice. But Michael, top 10 in that practice session. How did it feel?
Felt pretty good. You know, you always want to be top 3, top 5. But I think we're pretty happy with it. A lot of them guys went out fully taped. We weren't fully taped, so I think we got some room to improve. We just kind of threw some different stuff at it. You know, when we're all this close, a little goes a long way. So just trying some stuff. But I feel really good about the car. I think we got a really good car for the race on Sunday, and looking forward to getting into this pro car here in a few minutes.
I wonder why you're looking forward to getting into this pro car. It's got quite a successful history here for you in pro late model racing in the state of Florida.
Oh yeah, definitely. We talked about this yesterday. This is the same car we've won all of our big pro races with. Won World Series, won Speed Fest with it, a handful of other races with it. Really fast race car. I know Chris Cater's going to have us dialed in, and looking forward to it.
Michael Hind, he's one to watch, and after all, he's got flames on the side of his race car, so he's going to be red hot this weekend here in Pensacola, Florida. Let's go to Jim Trado.
Well, we are ready for pro late model cars to roll trackside. Cole Williams, the Nashville pro late model track champ from several years ago, has raced here a bunch, but not lately. He is the first car eagerly in line here for the pro late models. Chase Pinsino also is the second car in line, and Chase Pinsino's story, he is racing for Carson Host of our driver development, and this car was heavily damaged on Monday. I'm going to follow up with his crew chief, Zach Dunson, during this session as they finally get track time with a car they either had to replace or repair, with a lot of rear end damage on his car. And Chris Munson has got one of the most festive paint schemes. It's going to be fun to watch these pro late models, including Grant Thompson, who raced here a bunch in the pro trucks as a 13-year-old. He'll be rolling out 4th or 5th in line in his black and silver number 82. So a lot of stories we'll tell you about as the pro late models are lined up for their first practice session of the weekend.
Thanks, gentlemen. We might need to get Bob and Jim a change of sneakers. While some of the teams change tires, they have been burning up the pit lane, getting us all the stories and details for the Supers. Snowflake 100 practice going to kick off officially right after this break. You're watching the 57th Annual Snowball Derby presented by Flow Sports from Five Flags. First official practice for the 57th Annual Snowball Derby in the books for the Supers, with Snowflake 100 practice getting set to roll off on the half-mile oval that is the Five Flags Speedway here in Pensacola, Florida. Once again, hello everybody. I'm Eric Brennan alongside Adam Mackey, Bob Dillner, Jim Trado joining us trackside in what is a jam-packed stretch of days leading us up to the 57th running of the Snowball Derby for the first time on FloRacing. And we are starting to see the pro late model competitors make their way out for what will be the Snowflake 100 on Saturday after Derek Thorne was the quickest for the Supers in the first official Snowball Derby practice of the week.
11th time that Derek Thorne has won a practice session at the Snowball Derby.
For a driver who has led, I believe, just shy of a third of the laps he's completed in the Snowball Derby history for his racing career, and he too is pulling double duty. He'll be running the Snowflake as well as we get a look at Jimmy Renfrew Jr.'s. This has got to be one of the fan favorites. I know that my daughter at home loves this race car already. Definitely going to be one of the front runners for best appearing car. Let's go to Bob.
Let's talk about this paint scheme with Jimmy Renfrew down here. Where did the concept come from?
Yeah, we just want to do something cool this year. We did something last year for this event. We just wanted to kind of do something that the kids would kind of be able to interact with and kind of, you know, when they see it on the track, they, you know, from a movie they've watched before, and just trying to, you know, do something for the fans and have a good looking car when we come down here. We only do something like this one time a year, so other than that, we just run our traditional scheme and just tried to, you know, come up with something neat. Steve Dickey at Synergy Sign Works in New Hampshire, he knocked this one out of the park, and all the fans so far have really loved it, and so hopefully we get some good votes on the best appearing car.
So I want to know, that's HD5, by the way, that will have the vote for the best appearing car for the Snowflakes. But you're from New Hampshire, you're on Pass, some Act, and so forth. But why come down to the Snowball Derby here in the Panhandle of Florida in December?
Well, I mean, everybody looks at this race and knows that, you know, everybody that comes here for the Snowball and the Snowflake, that, you know, these are the best pro and super late model drivers in the country. And there's a lot of other big races, don't get me wrong, but these cars right here are, you know, the best that there is. So just want to come down here, try our hand with a good competition, and you know, there's always never a bad thing to get more laps whenever you can, and it's snowing in New Hampshire right now, so it's a little cold here. A little bit of rain came in today, but it's not snowing, so we'll take it.
Hey, by the way, when you get in the race car to get out there?
Well, you know, I figured I'd let some of these guys go out and sort it out a little bit before I jump out there. We have a backup car, but we don't want to use it, so figured, you know, they already got 30, 40 of them lined up here. I'd let them go sort it out, and then I'll go make a run.
Cautiously optimistic is Jimmy Renfrew going into this practice session.
And how about that, Adam? A little bit of confidence of let's let some of these other drivers get out there, figure things out, and we'll attack our game plan when we're ready.
Hey, he was fast last year, made his Snowflake debut, finished 6th in that race, and a lot of talent in the Snowflake. Not just the Snowball, but this Snowflake has a lot of veteran drivers, a lot of young, talented drivers. A guy like Chase Pinsino from Canada in the 14. He's got good people turning the wrenches on this car as well. He competed in the Jake Serre All-Stars Tour. Who's this guy? Stephen Nassy. He's going to be one of the favorites for the Flake this week as well.
And Nassy was someone who gave a lot of time to our team in our Drive to the Derby series that we were able to air. And if you haven't had a chance to watch it, I sat down and watched all 30-plus minutes in which Rob Blount and Stephen got to talk. And I was interested to hear that he not only, of course, talked about the one that got away in the tech shed here for the Derby, but also the one that got away for the Snowflake when things came to blows between he and Bubba Pollard and how the decision was made while he was giving his interview to have to give up that race win and trophy, and how that still kind of irks at him. When you talk about motivation, I think Nassy is equally motivated to not only get a Derby, but also to get a Snowflake.
You know, Nassy running for Campy in the Derby, running for the family team in the Flake, so gets to work with a couple different groups of folks, and I'm sure he's looking forward to all weekend long. This guy, concentrating on the Flake this weekend, would love to be in the Derby because, you know, he's one of the most talented super late model racers in the country. Casey Roderick driving the 62, and say he's going to be one of the favorites on Saturday night at Alan Turner Hyundai Snowflake 100.
Got to hear from Roderick earlier, and he seemed very poised, calm, cool, collected, understanding the task at hand, considering that he had an incredible year with the Blizzard Series here at Five Flags in 2024. And that, too, is a race car that's going to be hard to miss with that paint scheme and design as he comes up on the back of the rookie Pinsino. And we'll see if Roderick's going to elect to abort this run, and indeed he is. And that's something that many of these race teams will try to map out on this half-mile oval, is have a little bit of breathing room. Keep some distance between the cars that are around you so that way you can focus solely on how your car is operating on this facility.
Check this paint scheme out. The ride, the wrap on the 89 of Jeremy Williams, the 89. And the Roos Brothers Racing 89 ride. 69 car entering the racetrack. This is Travis Braden, former winner of the Snowball Derby, getting an opportunity to compete behind the wheel of this mountain machine this weekend. And Travis Braden, much like Casey Roderick, would be a favorite in the Derby if he was competing in it, but both racing just the flake this week.
Get a good chance to take a look at all the cars and competitors that make up this field, including that of the 67 of Zach Dixon out of Monroe, Georgia. And here's a driver who has certainly got very strong throughout the year. Came very close to winning the track championship at the New Smyrna Speedway in the Pro Late Model ranks. Georgia native Hudson Bolger is on the racetrack now as we'll throw it down to Bob Dillner.
This is the view we've all been waiting for, and we skipped by super late model practice to really show it to you. But if you look at these cars coming to turn number 1, wow, that was awfully close right there. But what they're trying to do is they're trying to get those tires as far down as possible. And guys, we'll get back to this because we have a caution on the racetrack.
Caution flag is out for the first Pro Late Model practice, trying to get an identification as to where the issue may be. Officials looking towards the back straightaway in turns 3 and 4. I believe there may have been a car off the pace. In fact, there is a car stationary in turn number 2. Trying to get a positive ID on that car as it has now made its way down to the apron of the racetrack, as you can see by courtesy of our drone footage. But it has yet to roll from the scene to slow the Snowflake 100 practice for the first time. And I believe that is the
Honeycutt car.
47 of Honeycutt, I believe it is. It sounds like no damage. The car pulled out of the pit area and slowed to a stop down on the apron. And will need the assistance of the push truck. Will out of the 2024 Cars Tour Pro Late Model champion, and as Adam mentioned, one of the busiest drivers on the property.
No doubt, and it's not starting well for his Pro Late Model portion, losing power on the exit of pit road. Just didn't get up to speed, and he'll get the assistance of the track crew to get him back to pit road. They'll work on that car. This session will go up until 12 noon, so we'll be back on schedule then. The first session going a little bit longer past the 11 o'clock hour to 11:10. This one goes to 12 noon, and then we'll have 4 more hours following that, rotating 1-hour sessions for the Derby cars and the Flake cars. We're just early in this session. Carson Brown in the Anthony Campy Racing number 81, fastest right now. 16:8:33. Casey Roderick in the 62 right behind him in second.
George Phillips right now currently sitting third. He actually won the Pro Late Model portion of the Florida Governor's Cup at New Smyrna Speedway a handful of weeks ago. Here's a look at the car that stopped to draw this caution's teammate, the 6th entry to that of Brandon Lopez, the Bryson Lopez Racing team. And Honeycutt actually slid over to that organization. I don't want to say the midway point of 2024, maybe just prior to that on the Cars Tour slate. And I have to say that everyone around that organization has said that Caden's presence and professionalism has helped elevate everyone's expectations heading into the Snowflake 100. And Brandon Lopez is trying to make his first go of this event. And he is out there trying to log some laps out of Woodstock, Georgia, is that of Lopez in the 6th car.
Remember Caden Honeycutt finishing top 5 in the Derby back in 2020 as a young man. Still very young, but a talented veteran now as a young man is Caden Honeycutt. There's Zach Dixon in the 67K. We'll start to get back up to speed as the crew goes to work on the 47 of Honeycutt right now, trying to find out why this car lost power.
And the clock continues to tick away, and the green flag is back out, allowing the teams a chance to get back up to speed to see what they've got in their race cars in this first official Pro Late Model practice of the Snowflake 100 for 2024. And behind that of Phillips, you've got Nassi, who we saw earlier. A close call there with Dixon as he got through 1 and 2. And how about the number 5 fastest car and the number 14 of Chase Pinsnow? He was involved in a very hard crash in what was the primary car for the Carson Hocevar Racing team. Now, the team is based out of the Midwestern portion of the country, but of course, Chase and the family, as Adam mentioned, with Canadian ties. And I think for that young driver and that team to show pace, although they just got kicked down to 6, to show pace this early after the misfortune early in the week and being able to put that behind him, that's a big learning experience for that young driver.
There's the number 15 ride, making its way to the racetrack. TJ DeCare, 18 years of age, debut for the Snowflake.
DeCare is someone who has come on very strong in the latter portion of 2024 in Pro Late Model competition. Ended the season with the Cars Tour in a campaign that kind of kicked off towards the end of the year. His relationship with Walker Motorsports with a runner-up effort, chasing down the race winner and champion in Honeycutt to the checkered flag. And he is very excited for this opportunity. And speaking of other young drivers looking for a good result, how about Seth Christensen? Is an immense amount of support. 2023 Alabama 200 winner and also a Pro Late Model winner here last season is that of the Pendergrass, Georgia native. He's logging some laps now and a little bit of traffic off of 4.
Yeah, and a handful of wheel right there for the 25. As drivers getting up to speed, a lot of youth out on the racetrack as well, and definitely hands full of wheel right there for the 25 car.
Salas Ripley out of Warren, Maine. Here's number 91 of Jim Wall out of Madison, Alabama. Jim, I think, is doing the right thing here. He's got a lot of real estate front and back for an opportunity to have a break from being in there around the mix of a couple of other cars. Let's get an update from Bob Dillner.
We saw Caden Honeycutt stop down there in between 1 and 2, and the problem was he stepped on the gas and the car wouldn't go. The throttle linkage had come apart on that race car, so they went up underneath the hood of that race car while on the front stretch, hooked it back up, and got him back out in the racetrack.
Thanks, Bob. We saw Caden waiting for an opportunity to go. He was being given the go signal from the official at the end of pit road, but obviously Caden working closely with his spotter to find the best spot to blend up and see if they got that issue resolved.
And of course, one of the things that they do in tech yesterday when they go through the tech line is they remove the carburetor. They take the carburetor to the officials to inspect the carburetor, and then they put it back on. So in that process, sometimes maybe something didn't get buttoned up properly in the throttle linkage. A quick fix for Caden Honeycutt.
Got a quick glimpse there at Michael Falk in the 25. Here's one of the many 11s in the field here this weekend. And in fact, Adam, I'm not going to gamble on which one that is. I'm going to try to confirm this thing the old-fashioned way on the stopwatch.
Yeah, watch it when it goes by the line, right? We have James Patrick, Will Mack, Dylan Capello, all racing 11s, and multiple of them are red as well. So we'll try to keep you up to date on that.
That's the benefit of us being able to bring practice coverage to the masses, because if we weren't on air, we would be doing this in real time, trying to learn some of these competitors we haven't had a chance to see yet hit the speedway. And with everyone showing off their best dressed in terms of paint schemes for this event, it is a bit of a learning curve even for us at times as we watch one car that looks very similar to its super late model and that of Dustin Smith pulling double duty.
Yeah, we're familiar with this car. This scheme hasn't changed a whole lot in a few years, and we get to see him race in both the Supers and the Pros. And that 11 that we were watching moments ago was that of James Patrick. He's still on the racetrack, the red and blue number 11 car.
Adding red and blue to my notes for that.
There you go.
Here's a driver who captured the owner's title on the Cars Tour side of the Pro Late Models in 2024. Was close to battling with Honeycutt for that driver's championship. Out of Dawsonville, Georgia, here is Spencer Davis, two-time winner on the Cars Tour season. Got to catch up with Spencer when he was driving what was a Ben Kennedy Racing super late model and what was going to be the Florida Governor's Cup in New Smyrna. And he said that he was actually called upon to maybe help that organization work through some growing pains or maybe prepare themselves for 2025. Now back in his family-owned entity is Adam Davis, as we get a quick glimpse of Carson Brown, who is the fastest, and now back up to this number 11 car, Patrick.
Patrick, one of the local racers in the number 11. Theodore, Alabama, one of the veteran racers, elder statesman of the field, and a lot of youth, teenage drivers in the Pro Late Models. 40 years of age is James Patrick.
2024 Sportsman Champion at the Speedway is that of James Patrick with 3 wins on the season. Trying to see what he's got up against some stiff competition with Anthony Campy Racing's Carson Brown currently the quickest. And just like that, right on cue, another 11 comes right up, almost to the fuel cell of Patrick, who gets out of Dodge on the front stretch.
Dylan Capello in the black and red number 11, going around the number 3 of Chris Munson. As we send it down to Jim Trado.
Cole Butcher had fast time. Okay, top 5 speeds in their super late, but you've been crashing with your brother's car recently. How often do you get involved in tackling things to help your brother, now top 5 in pro late model practice?
Well, me and my buddy Will, that works on my team at Donnie's, pretty well built this car from scratch. Me, Jerry, Will, so pretty hands-on when it comes to it. I love the pro industry, pro late model industry. So yeah, my Super's pretty good. I think the track got a little dirty there at the end with all the rubber put on, but I think we're pretty happy.
How did things change just in that 1 hour session you had this morning from a green track to what you're saying is a dirty track?
Just lost a lot of front end grip. I thought the first run I was going to run a low 40. I was going to wreck on the backstretch. So yeah, but I think we got a really good car, and we look forward to the rest of the weekend. Hopefully this rain holds off so we get some practice in.
All right, don't tell us all the secrets. What are you guys going to work on next on this number 28 Super?
Today's just qualifying. Today and tomorrow qualifying. We'll worry about race on Saturday. So lots of mock runs.
Buck Butcher here thrashing on his brother's car. He's happy with what he's got. He's going back to work to help his younger brother climb the charts. Was second quick earlier here in the practice session. Just getting things right for his younger brother in the car he helped directly build from scratch.
Thanks, Jim. And Adam, I mean, he just laid out his agenda for the rest of the afternoon, and that's going to be contingent on clear racetrack. That's something that we see the pro competitors struggle a lot with right now, is get some clear running room to lay down whatever your plan is. If you're mocking up trying to lay down a qualifying run, you need to make sure you've got some real estate to work with.
And that might be part of the reason that Jimmy Renfrew said what he said earlier, and said, I'm going to let these guys, there's 30 in line, let them go out there and run. Then when they're in here working on their cars, that's when I'm going to go out and make my run. And he's 13th on the speed chart for the 00 of Renfrew.
Here's another driver pulling double duty, and number 54, that is, of course, Matthew Craig out of Kannapolis, North Carolina. His record in the super late model has always been so impressive, and he's in the tire tracks of Cole Williams out of Memphis, Indiana.
There's two really good race car drivers right there, Cole Williams and Matthew Craig, both contenders when it comes to Saturday night's race.
As pro late model practice continues, let's go down to Bob Dillner.
Well, guys, you never know who you're going to run into here in the pits, because this is a community. It's a family that comes together for the Snowball Derby each and every year. Scott Hansen, former competitor in the Snowball Derby and a legend from up in the Midwest. Why do you keep on coming down to the Derby just to watch after all these years?
I just love coming down to see guys like you. Jimmy Trado went by, all this new young talent that goes on out here. Just a good time all the way around. Get out of the cold up in Wisconsin and come down here and enjoy.
What do you see out of the Snowball Derby right now? How has it changed through the years in your eyes?
Well, the cars are what's changed for me. I don't think I could drive one across the parking lot with the way they've got them going on, but you know, it's just the technology. You look at, you know, if you don't have the littlest thing, it's a tough game, you know. So I really enjoy coming around, looking at the cars. Like I said, just seeing a lot of old people, a lot of old friends, and see what's going on.
I want to know, from all the years and so forth, and I think you retired on air with me a couple of times during our broadcast after a bad day, but what is it, not just about the people and the race cars, but why is the Snowball Derby so special to this community?
It's prestigious, you know. It's the short track of the year, not the winter, not the spring. It's the short track of the year. You know, I don't know how many different states and countries and you name it that the drivers are here from. You know, what we used to love about racing, we didn't necessarily race a weekly deal. We went around the country, so we were against 40, 50 new guys every week, and that's what makes you better. Come down, and that's what this race does. Makes you better with the competition that's around you.
Great to see you, Scott, and always enjoy talking to Scott Hansen. Has finished second in this Snowball Derby a couple of times.
You know, Scott Hansen got a chance to race up in the NASCAR Xfinity Series, up in the Truck Series as well. Dylan Capello is in the pits here and trying to make his third straight snowflake. Just 5 years ago, Dylan Capello was racing and winning championships in the Lucas Oil Modified Series. This number 11 team, and the car he's got now, is top 10 in speeds. His day job right now, guys, he moved to Charlotte. He's now the crew chief in the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series at Lane Riggs. So Dylan Capello getting a chance to play on his off weekend, if you will, from the real job. And he's been very active on this, and they're looking a lot at the left front suspension. Capello's a really smart driver, really smart mechanic, and a Truck Series crew chief getting a chance behind the wheel for hopefully his third straight snowflake here at Pensacola.
Thanks, Jim. And that's a theme that we see across several competitors in, you know, not just the super late model portion with the Snowball Derby or the pro late model drivers that are on the racetrack now with the snowflake, but there are a lot of drivers who have full-time responsibilities across the landscape of the sport, like Capello and many others, who may have wanted to have a career as a race car driver. Things just haven't panned out in the direction which they may have hoped for. Dylan elected to go to Northern Arizona University, get an engineering degree, and find a way to work in the sport. And as Jim mentioned, this is, I don't want to say it's an off week or a play week, if you will, because he's pretty good at driving the race car as well. But this race serves an opportunity to maybe hit the refresh button and get the industry to see you can still get the job done behind the wheel, and that's what Capello and company are trying to do.
Bubba Pollard out there in the Snowflake car. We saw him just outside of the top 10 earlier in his Derby car. Ended up 11th in that first hour session today for the Supers. Right now, Bubba Pollard trying to fine-tune the Snowflake entry as well. Pollard currently down the speed chart a little bit in the 26.
His driver just wrapped up a track championship in what was a wild and chaotic end to the regular season at New Smyrna Speedway. Jason Vale out of Claremont, Florida, was in championship contention for the Pro Late Model title there at New Smyrna. Behind that of Hudson Bolger and Brad May. Well, Bolger got in a wreck while battling for the lead. May had a mechanical problem, and when Vale got to the front straightaway to accept his top honor and award, he admitted, "I had no idea that I still had a chance to win this thing because I thought the front two had been so superior all season long." He's taken that momentum here to Five Flags to see what he could do with the Snowflake.
We've seen Jason Vale in the past run in outlaw late models down here in the South, including New Smyrna Speedway and Five Flags, getting a chance to drive a pro late model again here this year as the 407 of Vale, trying to make his second start. Finished 7th in the Flake 1 year ago.
You see Caden Honeycutt making it back out after the initial blip, after that throttle linkage issue, as Bob told us about, with that Bryson Lopez team. And for Honeycutt, it's been a pretty eventful last couple of weeks, if you will, for that of Honeycutt. He's been in a position to rack up a couple of dollars, including $1,000 at the Snowball Derby preview here last week. And as Adam mentioned, very busy is that of Honeycutt in a super and a pro truck and more. And when they had a money run here for that Snowball Derby preview, it was Honeycutt who essentially ran the table, collected, as we said, up to $1,000 in cash by his ability to lay down a flyer when it mattered most. So not only does he have a little bit of extra padding in the wallet, but he's also proven that he can certainly operate under pressure. We'll see if it parlays into a Snowflake 100 win with the pro, or maybe a Snowball Derby victory come Sunday.
Practice continues up until the 12 o'clock hour. We will likely have a slowdown for maybe some crossing of the track at some point during this session that has 22 minutes left in it. Then the super late models will be coming back to the track again for round 2.
As the pro late models continue on with their practice session, let's go to Bob.
Well, guys, this is why there's lots of practice here today. Jeremy Williams climbing outside of his race car right now. He had the clutch go out in this race car. They're taking the shifter out of the car. They're going to change the clutch as well. Make sure you can get back out there for the later practice sessions. Remember, 2 more practice sessions for pro late models coming up. You'll see it all live on FloRacing. But Jeremy Williams and this 89 team having a little trouble here early on in practice with the pro late models.
Thanks, Bob. Big opportunity for that team to hopefully work on that equipment, as we see Grant Thompson out of Mobile, Alabama, wrapping up one of his runs. We heard Grant's name mentioned earlier as being a very young pro truck competitor here in the past at Five Flags Speedway, now trying his hand at the Snowflake.
Been racing since a very young age. 18 years of age is Grant Thompson. Feels like we've known him for several years because he's been behind the wheel of multiple divisions. You mentioned the trucks, where he's been a champion at Five Flags Speedway.
Stephen Nassy coming back to the attention of his crew as we check in on Spencer Davis. Unique for Spencer to be back with this family-owned operated team, and I mentioned having the chance to catch up with him at New Smyrna when he was driving for Ben Kennedy in the super late model, what was supposed to be the Florida Governor's Cup event that ended up getting canceled for the year. And Spencer said that he's honestly had the most fun this year that he has had in a very long time. We know his career got him up to the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series, but he said being around those who he trusts the most, has the most fun with, and can not only get a job done with in terms of preparing fast race cars. He said 2024 has been a year that has truly refreshed his love of the sport. And he's also proven that he's still really, really good at it. And he's not quite sure what 2025 looks like just yet, but based on how well he has run in a pro this season, I think it's safe to say the odds makers are going to put him up pretty high in terms of being a threat for this race come Saturday.
Yeah, and I talked to him yesterday in the pits, and he said, I'm just here running the flake, here to have fun. Good to see a lot of people I haven't seen in a while competing at the flake for the first time in a long time.
Cole Williams, one of the drivers, taking advantage of a lot of lap time that is available during this session, as it is still Carson Brown the quickest, with Jared Butcher and Seth Christensen your top 3. Blizzard Series champion Casey Roderick in the Pro Late Model practice session 4th, and Nick Loden in what is a newly renumbered 54L for his Pro Late Model car. Of course, he drives the fluorescent yellow Corvette number 43, typically on a Pro, but they've converted that car to the Super. And he rounds out your top 5 in this session as Williams will come back to the pits.
There's a car that's been fast in this practice. Carson Brown, the Campy Racing Snowflake entry. Nassi driving the Super Late Model for the team, but Carson Brown, teenage competitor in the number 81, on track once again. Seeing if they can get any more speed out of it. 16 years of age, from North Carolina is Carson Brown.
Last year, Brown made several late model stock starts with the Cars Tour before pivoting his attention to running with this Anthony Campy Racing team, and it did not take long for them to find success, and it's continued all the way up to this weekend. And here's the driver who did just what he said he was going to do. Let the track activity cool off for a little bit, and then throw that 00 out for Candia, New Hampshire's Jimmy Renfrew Jr. And what is also a close working relationship, not only with his Renfrew Motorsports operation, but also with that of Donnie Wilson's team in Wilson Motorsports. So Renfrew now on the racetrack for the first time in his second Snowflake 100 attempt after starting 11th here last year and working his way up to 6th at the finish.
Also saw Renfrew fast last year during the World Series and Pro Late Model competition, a threat to win each and every one of those nights of racing during the World Series in 2024. As we send it back down to Bob Dillner.
Grant Thompson is wheeling the number 82 machine here, and he is not near the top of the speed charts, but the team not concerned whatsoever. They went out on scuffs, some older tires. Car was tight in the center and then loose off. A very familiar condition for all of some of the younger drivers down here, but they made a sway bar change to this team, and now they're actually going to put the sticker tires on and do a little mock run to get a baseline of how fast Grant Thompson is. And Grant Thompson, one of the drivers doing double duty here today, not only running the Pro Late Model, but also running the trucks a little bit later on tonight, Jim.
Well, when it comes to experience, you want to draw on every bit of it. We talked about Ricky Turner helping out this driver, Jake Garcia. Well, the car he's been watching and looking at in this Pro Late session is Seth Christensen, also a teammate, also a teenager, and Seth's got some pretty good speed as well, Jake. How about the preparation you have in this car and issues you may have overcome in the first session? Then we'll talk about that kid next to you.
Yeah, we had a really good first session, I thought. The track changes a lot throughout the first session just because of how much rubber gets put down every year. So, I think we've got a good car, and I'm really excited for it. We did have a little issue there on pit road. Just couldn't get it fired back up after we shut it down. Got a little hot and just couldn't get it fired back up there. But no problem, nothing like that. Just thought it'd be better to have it push us to our pit stall here. So, I'm really excited to see what Seth can do on Saturday night. It's been good to work with him and have him as a teammate. He runs a lot while I can't, so really excited to be a part of it. This Freight Racing team with me, Seth, and Chase, and I think we're making some progress here. But excited to see what they can do on Saturday night.
And I've seen Jake actually in the pits when Chase Elliott's driving for this team. You're helping in every way possible. How have you helped Seth get up to speed trying to make his first Snowflake?
Yeah, he really has done a really good job. He's won 2 races down here this year, so I really don't think I can help him a whole lot at this point. It was more his first year, he needed a lot of help, just getting his feet wet and stuff, and now I feel like he's got a pretty good handle on these Pro Late models, I just need to sit back and watch and, cheer him on pretty much.
That's 19-year-old Jake Garcia talking about 17-year-old Seth Christensen. I said, are you a mentor now? He said, I wouldn't go that far. Great time out here in the pits. These guys are fast.
The title mentor for a very young Jake Garcia is certainly something that we could all giggle about a little bit there, but he's been helping that young man in Seth Christensen find his footing as we take a look at, I should say, at Jet Nolan out of Groveland, Florida.
Right now, unofficial times, Carson Brown quickest. We've seen him on track a couple of times in the Campy Racing 81. Jarrett Butcher, Seth Christensen, Casey Roderick, Nick Loden rounding out the top 5. The rest of the top 10, Jake Finch of the Ronnie Sanders 18. He's 6th. Caden Honeycutt, after they got the throttle linkage fixed, 7 quick right now for Honeycutt. Matt Craig 8th. John Bolin 9th, and Michael Hind rounding out the top 10 in Snowflake practice. We're down to the final 14 minutes of round 1 practice as Bubba Pollard's back out in the 26 car. Pollard shown 34th in practice for the Flake.
When we look at Bubba Pollard's history and relationship with this racetrack, one of the things that stands out, albeit the racing series at the moment is currently not operational, but let's not forget he got the nod to run the Superstar Racing Experience event that was held here back in 2022, titled as the local hero. That's something that Kobe got to do, Matt Hirschman got to do, and for Bubba, he was the one that was selected for the event that was held here. He started on the pole, led 11 laps, and finished 2nd. The multi-time Indy 500 winner Elio Castro-Neves. Again, looking at the landscape of Bubba throughout his entire career, I know he's still chasing top honors come Sunday, but he's obviously very well respected for a lot of his accomplishments at this venue for many, many, many reasons.
This driver on track trying to fine-tune this car. It's looked extremely tight. Looks like he's putting a lot of wheel into it, trying to maneuver the corners. A driver from Michigan, Chris Munson, one of the elder statesmen of the class, comes here to have fun. You know, this is one of those competitors that likes to get out of the cold. We heard Scott Hansen, the former ASA star, likes to get out of the cold, coming from Wisconsin. Well, same can be said for just about any part of the country right now. It's chilly all the way across the United States, and Michigan definitely frigid where Chris Munson comes from.
We had snow up in the Carolinas for the first time in about 3 years this past week.
Like a little early for this. We're barely into December, right?
Certainly doesn't beat what I was used to up in New York, where it would happen on occasion, and we would just keep our fingers crossed that schools would be closed. And virtual learning threw all that out the window. Now, now there's no snow days anymore. 67, now chasing down Mamba Smith. First look that we've had here at what he calls his job title, the official hype man with NASCAR. Travels to a lot of the NASCAR Cup Series weekends, does that of Mamba. Also works alongside of Kevin Harvick and Caitlin Vinces on Kevin Harvick's Happy Hour podcast. Now back behind the wheel of a race car for the first time in quite some time, and he's been very excited about this opportunity, trying to log laps and figure out where they stand in this first session.
It's got to be tough to do when you don't race full time, and Mamba gets a chance to come down here and race about once a year, it seems, and right now against a very tough Flake field, just trying to get in a rhythm and get the feel for the race car is going to be the key, and he's got plenty of time to do that today. Just wants to keep it in one piece, keep it in the right direction, and gain speed and hit his marks by the end of the day.
Heard Bob talk about this driver with the super late model looking very similar to the Pro, with the flames up and down the sides and on the hood for that of Michael Hind out of Hernando, Florida. He was a 2022 World Series of Asphalt Pro Late Model champion at New Smyrna Speedway with 3 victories, and the much publicized big breakout win in the super late model that came at the World Crown 300 about 2 months ago. Now has him poised for what could be a very solid weekend on both ends with both race cars.
Yeah, and he's been a talented pro late model racer for some time. Won Speedfest a number of years ago, and always a threat when it came to the pro, but needed that breakthrough win in a super, and he got it here in recent months.
That car just looks mean. Looking up in the rear view, seeing the red headlights that they've strapped on the front end of the body of that race car. Although I think he's hoping he's not in anybody's rear view. He's hoping everyone's in his rear view come Saturday.
If you're a Michael Hind fan, it's real easy to find your favorite driver on the racetrack.
So the work going on to that of Chase Pinsonneau's car. Again, this is the backup entry after he pretty much rear clipped the car in turn 2 on Monday.
Hudson Bulger's number 17, a driver who I watched in Legends and move up into pro late models, home track of Cordial Motor Speedway. Going to be going out first in qualifying Saturday afternoon at 3 o'clock for the Snowflake qualifying runs. Didn't like that number 1 when he drew it last night. First driver to step up and draw his pill, and he pulled the 1.
That's usually fun if you're redrawing for a race at your local short track, but not to be the first car out for Derby or Flake qualifying by any stretch. We see Casey Roderick back out on the speedway, and what's going to be the final block of time for this first round of Snowflake 100 practice for the pros.
Down to 9 minutes remaining in this session for the Snowflake round 1 practice. Derek Thorne, very hands-on. He knows how to work on these race cars. He knows how to drive them. He won that first practice session for the Derby. Working on the Flake car right now to see if he can gain some more speed. Doesn't look like he's going to win the Flake practice, Eric, as he is currently 15th. Decent so far as Derek Thorne, but looking to make it a little bit better.
Contrary to what we saw for Snowball Derby practice, all 47 cars that are entered for the event have been on the racetrack at least once in this block of practice, with the quickest still being that of Carson Brown. Another look at one of the beautiful Rackley War cars. We go back down to Bob Dillner.
Well, one guy who is very symbolic around this Five Flags Speedway pit area is Augie Grill, climbing behind the wheel of his race car right now. He is a 2-time Snowball Derby champion. He's got that Snowflake wins as well. Augie Grill only doing single duty. We're not used to that here. He said, I'm all I'm worried about is the Pro Late model. And right now I said, how's the race car? He said, we're still dialing it in. They just made a shock adjustment on the front end as he's about to go out and try that, as well as some other suspension changes as well. But Augie Grill relaxed this year, just concentrating on the Pro Late model. And I said, hey, but where are you stacking up? He said, not sure, some scoring issues or so forth with everything that's going on here at Five Flags. So he's not sure, but he says the feel of the car is getting better and better. Jim Trado?
Well, I'm actually kind of documenting Derek Thorne. I thought for sure he'd be getting ready to transition from the Jet Motorsports 16. When he's climbed back in, he was under the hood making a carburetor adjustment. Derek Thorne has helped prepare this car and 3 others on the property for this weekend. This is the last-minute call. He was the last guy in the entry list, the last guy to draw for his starting position in qualifying draw last night because it was based on entry blank. This opportunity with Jet Motorsports and Pat Jet has been driven by the fact that Jeff Sandlin has a shop ball number 16 from Strange Oval. Jeff Sandlin passed away, so this car is going to be a tribute to him, but Derek's really good at getting these cars figured out. And I thought for sure by now he'd make the 50-yard dash to his super. Nope, one more turn for the 2-time Snowflake champ, Derek Thorne, as he rolls out of the pits.
Thanks, gentlemen. And, you know, looking at Augie Grill, Bob mentioned 2-time Snowball Derby champion, 3-time Snowflake 100 winner, only focusing on the Flake this year, but came out over the summer months. Recently, found out that he was undergoing or going to have to face a battle with cancer. It kind of took a toll on his health for quite some time. Got back behind the wheel of the cockpit of his race car, got a win at Montgomery, and is now poised to what he hopes will be an effort that will lead him to his 4th Snowflake 100. Oftentimes, Adam, we forget that these drivers lead real lives outside of the race car, outside of the racetrack, and you know, for some of the stories that we've been touching on, whether it be Cole Butcher, Augie Grill, and many, many more throughout the weekend, it just adds another layer of significance as to how this weekend could shape or finalize how up and down a year has been for some of these competitors and people.
And for Augie Grill and what he's been battling, the chance to come into the Derby week and run the Flake gets a lot off your mind. You get to go out there and have fun at the Flake, and that's a big deal for Augie Grill.
Saw Bob Dillner catching up with Spencer Davis there a little bit, maybe a little bit of a pre-conversation, as a handful of cars still remain on the racetrack, like that of Derek Thorne.
It's a beautiful race car right there. I like it. Derek Thorne, we saw him working on the car. He turned very few laps in the Super because it's fast. It was fastest. The Pro, he's back out because they want a little more speed out of it. He was not happy with it. They made some adjustments, and he's heading back to the pits.
Well, Bob was indeed going to have a good conversation with that Spencer Davis. So much so, we're going to listen in. Bob, what's up?
Yeah, absolutely. We were just chatting about the season, and Spencer has had a great season. You know that, Eric Brennan, for what he did in the car store. But how are things so far with this Pro Late model down here?
So far, so good with our number 29 favorite race car, Chevrolet. We have a real good car, I feel like, so far. We're still about 20th on the charts in race runs. So try not to waste tires. You know, we're getting ready to mock up this second practice here. So we'll see what happens, but real proud of my guys so far. You know, we came down here and had some fun.
You were one of those young kids for such a long time coming down here. We would tout him all the time as one of those next up-and-coming drivers, but coming down now with all this experience, you went to modifieds for a little while, rejuvenated your career this year a little bit. How much fun was that with the Cars Tour?
It's a lot of fun. You know, we truck race for a little while and ARCA race with some different people. Man, it's hard racing against people that, you used to beat their teeth in here, the late model range, short track range where it really matters. And, we're back here short track racing with a real good program, our family program. And it showed this year, we got a couple wins in the Cars Tour. Fell just short of the drivers, won the Owners Championship. And man, it's been a blast being back down here.
Spencer Davis going to be a threat for the Alan Turner Snowflake 100 on Saturday night. And Eric, how about his season? Those wins, gets the Owners Championship. You saw it all live on FloRacing.
Indeed, Bob, and I have to say that, Spencer would be the first to admit they struggled in qualifying in the first half of the year, but he learned how to work his way up through the pack rather quickly. And then towards the end of the season, once he started finding some of the poles, the wins just came right thereafter. Consistent all year long, and that level of consistency and competitive nature is something that Spencer has continued to hold in every contest that he's entered. And Bob alluded to the fact that Spencer, over the last couple of years, spent a lot of time in a tour type modified, and that may have helped him, kind of prepare for some of these little bit bigger tracks. We don't see a lot of half miles on the Cars Tour slate, but here at the Five Flag Speedway, aside from North Wilkesboro, it's going to be one of the biggest events he's tackled in a pro late model this season, and I think he's well prepared.
Yeah, he's a very versatile driver, is Spencer Davis. I remember years ago when he was just a young teenage driver at New Smyrna during the World Series, would compete in a tour type modified, would run pro late models and supers, at times racing 3 different races each night at New Smyrna.
Roderick looking for a chance to improve on the stopwatch if at all possible. Right now scored 4th in terms of where drivers rank in this practice session. And Adam Spencer also gave us a glimpse as to what we may see in round 2 for the Snowflake practice session about 1 hour plus from now, is that maybe that will be when some of the teams elect to mock up and see what they could do in qualifying trim.
Usually like to do that late in the session when there's less cars on the track, and now's not a bad time to do that. Just 2 or 3 cars making their way around this half mile in Pensacola, Florida. With just a few minutes left in practice, Silas Ripley back out there in the 25 as we send it back down to Bob.
Just want to give you a little update. So Colin Allman actually inside the fenders on his number 67 machine and has a little misfire underneath the hood. So they're changing the spark plug wires and the spark plugs on this engine. Hopefully he gets back out there. He said, I hope that's all that it is right now. They'll find out shortly as they continue to do some work on this 67 underneath the hood.
Thanks, Bob. For Allman out of Plant City, Florida. So not a long haul to get to the racetrack, but you do all your work, due diligence back in the shop, you unload, first practice session, you got a gremlin you got to work out. And that could derail some of the initial game plan for Colin Allman and that team. Luckily, we got a lot of practice still to go.
Colin Allman, low budget operation there, small team run operation. That car, 20 years old, left-hander chassis, and he's very competitive in it. Ran in the top 10 for much of last season.
Here's Luke Baldwin. Heard from him earlier when Bob got a chance to catch up with him. Got familiar sounds in his ears, with that being of now new Cars Tour competitor for 2025 and good friend in Carson Lofton, who was serving as the spotter for him this weekend. They were all hanging out at the kickoff party a couple of nights ago. And Derek Thorne still logging laps on the speedway. Let's go down to Jim.
Earl Williams is no stranger to Five Flag Speedway. As a matter of fact, the former Nashville Pro Late Model champ has raced here twice this year in Pro Late Models. How different is this racetrack than what it was this summer? We have to race with everybody else here in Pensacola.
It's a big thing here in the Snowflake Snowball every year. It seems like the rubber's up a lot. You get a lot more cars on it. You don't get 100 cars on this track all the time. So definitely, I think it's going to be a game to chasing the track all weekend, because tomorrow's going to be different again. So I think that's what we're going to do, is just try to keep up as much as we can. I think the best who does is going to be the best for 100 laps.
I dragged you out of the meeting in the back of the hauler. What are you guys working on for the next session? What are you guys working on already for the next practice?
Yeah, just need a little bit more turn. I haven't been on these ST3s, a little bit harder tires, so it seems like the cars are a little bit snugger with them, so we're just trying to adjust to get more turn speed on this car. So we'll work on it. We're getting really close. I'm pretty tickled with the car right now, so we're just going to keep fighting the racetrack and go from there.
Are you a stopwatch chaser? You're 21st, but you're only like a tenth and a half off.
I haven't even looked at race monitor. We're going off a feel of the car right now.
That's Cole Williams. Got experience getting these guys together to get a good run, get a good race car. And by the way, guys, the temperature here, because now we're under full cloud cover, it's dropped about 5 or 7 degrees, I'd say, in the last 30 minutes.
Thanks, Jim. As we see Snowflake 100 practice drawing to a close. The last couple of cars will come down to the pit area, and Carson Brown with the Anthony Campy Racing Team joins the likes of Derek Thorne as far as being one of, if not the first driver to lay down the gauntlet in the official on-track capacity of the 57th Annual Snowball Derby weekend. You see William Sawalich climbing into his race car, getting set to attack what the game plan is for practice number 2 for the Supers, as they will be given the green light here shortly. And Adam, I think this may be an opportunity where we will see some of these teams start to mock up and see what they've got with qualifying for the Derby a little bit over 24 hours away from now. An aerial view of Five Flag Speedway. We'll be back for more practice right after this.
From dawn to dusk, our family of racers and crew members are here, manufacturing the quality parts you need to get to victory lane. Made in America and delivered to your door, we build race-winning parts. Be a winner.